Welcome to another hashtag Football Friday, baby, on Sports Zone Chicago. You're listening to Second City Sports. We're live and in living color, along with Miss Lakeena McGee. I am Sydney Brown. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, that's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can follow me at Keena McGee on the Twitter and at Keena_McGee on the IG.
Make sure you download that Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps, whether it's an Apple iTunes Store or Google Play, wherever you get your apps. Make sure it says Sports Zone Chicago. You can catch our live shows, including this one, Second City Sports, any of our other 5 shows. If you missed them, that's okay. You can go back in the archive section. You can watch the video and listen to the podcast. And speaking of Sports Zone Chicago, you can follow them on all social media platforms. That's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Once again, that's Sports Zone Chicago on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. And if you want to catch the audio version of this show, Second City Sports, you can do so by subscribing to War on Anchor. We're available on all podcast platforms, including the iHeartRadio app. Make sure you type in the search engine box on all podcast platforms, WARR on Anchor. And speaking of War Media, you can follow them on all social media platforms at WARR Media. That's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Once again, at War Media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
And we are unapologetically fun, and we have very different opinions. And if you want to comment on today's show, on any of our topics during today's show, you can do so by going to Sports Zone Chicago on Facebook or Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Place your questions or comments in the comments section, and Lakeena will get them up on the air, up on the screen for you. But if you decide to do something stupid or try to troll, Lakeena will politely give you the boot. We have a busy we have a busy show for you guys today. Coming up in this first hour, we'll have Cheryl Raye Stout, friend of the show, she's a Chicago sports reporter and our Chicago sports historian from WBEZ, friend of the show. She's going to join us during our first hour. She's going to help us navigate through the Blackhawks investigation. Of course, the press conference took place on Tuesday with the law firm, and of course, all the happenings that went on with that came down with that. She's going to talk with us about that. During our next hour, we'll have, of course, our good friend Christine Manika from KRON-TV Radio in Sioux Falls to pick for Week 8 in the National Football League. But at the top of next hour, we'll have Miss Kylen Mills, a sports reporter and anchor from KRON-TV out there in the Bay Area and Chicago native. She's going to hop on with us to preview Bears and 49ers. Shout out Armando Lara Jr. It's been a while, my brother. Nice to see you.
Nice
Hope
to see
you can stay with us throughout the whole show. You guys as well. So tell your friends that we're on the air here on Second City Sports, live and in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Lakeena, we were on Sean and Maya in the morning just a few moments ago. Anything else you want to add for our audience that's just joining us? What were your quick thoughts about the Blackhawks findings in that investigation and that press conference that took place on Tuesday?
It's just a failure all around. I mean, Kyle Beach, shout out to him, all the courage, he came out in a TSN interview on Wednesday right after the report came out. And it was just a fail. The report itself was like 150 to like 53, something like that, pages. But I just read the Cliff Notes version. It makes you sick to your stomach. Mm-hmm. To see, some of the details and stuff. And, the fact that he did what you should do in that situation. You went to the proper channels. He went to Phil Vincent, who has a law enforcement background. He's coaching hockey now, but he does have a law enforcement background. He told the others, the folks involved, he said, look, you guys need to look into this. And the fact that they didn't, the fact that when the cup was more important. I mean, and Sean said it. I mean, if they had done this, if they had just did the due diligence and just took the guy off leave, they could have, did it, all of this. And look, they probably would have been, more reserved, more revered than they were. I mean, oh, look, you guys were able to do all this, you took care of this, even after the miss of winning the cup the first time forever. Like I said earlier, I mean, I got a nephew who, got into the sport, and he's not wearing his Blackhawks gear. He told me, look, I'm not gonna wear my Blackhawks gear anymore because this whole thing is disgusting. He has a 9-year-old daughter he has to think about when it comes to that situation. So and then unfortunately you hear these kind of things, in youth hockey and also youth sports. So the fact that it's so close to the organization, of course, the organization that I grew up in, I know I grew up following, I know you grew up following, so people know you're a hockey guy as well. It's just like, it just makes you cringe all over, especially reading the report. And I can't wait till Cheryl comes on. Nick
Mhm.
Boynton, who was one of the players on that team, said that, yeah, this happened, and all the
Mhm.
the stuff, the slurs, the homophobic slurs and stuff like that. Also, Brett Sopel, another very well liked figure from those teams, he confirmed that what was said. So, it's just a total failure all around. And look, this organization has a lot of cleaning up to do, both PR wise, and it's just a horrible situation all around.
I keep thinking back. I was thinking about this the last couple of days. I keep thinking back to John McDonough, who was let go right at the start of the pandemic last year. And I brought up at the time, was it because of what was going to come around the corner? I know most of the people said no, but
Hmm.
I just kept thinking that was this around the corner, and they wanted to make this look good, so they won't quote unquote look as bad. If you notice, during that time when John McDonough came over from the Chicago Cubs, it was all about hashtag one goal. Every Blackhawks player wearing that Blackhawks hat or that T-shirt to promote the brand. Do not step on that logo in the locker room. Everything was about the brand, and he was a tough son of a gun, from what I've heard. And I heard
Hmm.
another good friend of this show, Pat Boyle from NBC Sports Chicago. He's a pre and post game host for the Blackhawks coverage there, and he said on the radio earlier this week that John McDonough was a no nonsense guy. Now we know why, because he knew something and didn't do anything about Kyle Beach, who was the John Doe player that was later revealed. But uh, John McDonough was a no nonsense guy. He was a tough son of a gun, and former employers of his said the same thing. So now we know why he was extra uptight. Stan Bowman, remember that was his first year as GM, replacing Dale Talent. So uh, as I said before, working with the D and Davis show, doing the whole Penn State thing with the late coach Joe Paterno and Jerry Sandusky, we all want our favorite teams to win. But if it costs somebody their life, whether it's a child's life or somebody else's life, it's unacceptable. Like you mentioned before, we hear it in youth hockey leagues, and we hear it in high schools and some colleges, but to get to the professional level and for that to happen to that extreme is unacceptable. It really is.
It definitely puts a taint on those championships for the Hawks. And I kind of feel like they've got a lot to do. And I know Rocky Warts, sent something to Gary Bettman saying that he wants the guy's name removed from the cup. Why didn't you do it
Mhm,
earlier? Why did you do it when it first happened? You knew this was
mhm,
happening. Leaving Danny Wards out of it because he had nothing to do with the organization at the time.
mhm.
But Rocky, you were there. You can't play dumb and say, "Well, I didn't know this was happening." You just can't do it. So I just and then Taya's comments after the game with the Maple Leafs on
Mhm.
Wednesday, that does you probably shouldn't have said nothing. You probably would have been better off just not
Yeah.
saying anything. But it's just well, we'll see. We'll see about we'll see what Cheryl comes on, because she's more in tune with this than we are. She's been following the story as well. So well, yeah. I mean, it's just it's not really put this aside for a second. I think it just
Mhm.
the Hawks have a lot of PR cleaning up to do. I'll say that.
You're listening to Second City Sports on the hashtag Football Friday, live and in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid Lakeena here with you, Lakeena. Before Cheryl comes on, let's get in some Bulls talk for a minute. We discussed this on Sean and Maya in the morning. A few moments ago, last night's game, the Knicks beat the Bulls by 3. I watched the MSG feed late last night, and Kenny Albert and the Glide Frazier was on. They were on the call, and Kemba Walker had a great game. He had 21 points. Derrick Rose had some key buckets down the stretch. Of course, he got a nice ovation from the crowd. Of course, for the Bulls, Joakim Noah, one-time Nick, and longtime Chicago Bulls player. He was honored before the game. It was a great atmosphere watching it on TV. The crowd was into it. But as I said on Sean and Maya in the morning, the Bulls lack depth as far as big men inside, especially coming off the bench. Now, Nikolai Vucevic, he had a bounce back game, as we talked about in our last episode on Monday. He's been struggling to start out the year, but he had a nice game last night. But defensively in the interior, that's one concern that I have about this Bulls team. Now, like you mentioned before, Lakeena, Zach LaVine has been doing his thing. He has that thumb injury on his non-shooting hand. Hopefully, it doesn't get any worse as the season goes on. But DeRozan missed a game-winning shot. I thought he should have passed it off as well. But the Bulls, give him credit for fighting back. But if this is a team that we have projected to do great things, to go to the playoffs, or perhaps do some possible damage, you need to win games like this. No, they did not play their best last night, but they got away with it on Monday at Toronto on the road. But they got caught with their pants down last night against the Knicks.
Yeah, they only made 11 3-pointers. That's not going to do it. Look, they still had a shot to win. My feeling is, look, if this is the Bulls teams from last year, from 2 years ago, they would have been blown out easily. So the fact that they were able to, were pretty close to, maybe DeRozan probably thought he had a good look, and maybe he thought that, being the veteran, that he probably didn't want to put it all on Levine. So if he had met that shot, he probably would have been, he'd be the king, for Friday right now here in Chicago. But that's not to be. And look, these are the kind of things that are going to happen. I think the Knicks got lucky. I'm not sold on this Knicks team. I'm sorry, I'm not. And look, I think look, we've seen this movie before, with Tibbs teams. They break through. Everybody, sort of, their thing, your legs fall off in the end. So it's not. And I think it's going to happen here. We saw it in Chicago. Here in Chicago, we saw it in Minnesota. It's probably going to happen eventually in New York. But look, the Bulls got a very tough stretch. I know Patrick Williams, he has a sprained wrist. We'll see if we'll be able to play tomorrow against Utah. They've got the Bulls got a pretty tough stretch of the next 11 games. Look, if you can go, not counting this Knicks loss, if you can go 6-6 or 7-5, you'll take it. And you split with the Sixers. You might win against maybe one of those LA teams, both the Clippers and the Lakers. It's going to be very interesting to see how this goes, because I kind of feel like, look, I think this team is good enough to win it. And I kind of feel like it's going to be very interesting to see how it goes.
Yeah, more conversation about the Bulls in the NBA coming up later on in our show. We have our guest for this first hour. She's a great friend of the show. She's our Chicago sports historian, and she's a sports reporter for WBEZ FM 91.5 FM here in Chicago. She's the great mentor of ours. She's a great friend. She's all around great person. She's Miss Cheryl Raye Stout. You can follow her on Twitter at C Raye Stout. That's the letter C RAYE STOUT. That's Cheryl C Raye Stout on the Twitter. Cheryl, welcome back to the program. How are you?
I'm good. I'm sorry I'm a little late. I had some more news I had to take care of, so it's been a crazy time.
Yeah, that's quite all right. We know that you're a busy person covering everything around Chicago sports. Let's get to the. We promise that this is not going to be a whole depressing interview. We'll talk to you about other stuff in a few minutes. But the Blackhawk investigation, of course, the press conference took place on Tuesday. All the details came out. All the people that were out in that report, they're no longer involved with the organization. I want to ask you this, Cheryl. Take your reporter's hat off and put your parent hat on, because I know you're a parent of a young son. Going through that report, how does this make you feel as a parent? Because I don't have any children. I know Lakeena doesn't have any children, but I can only imagine as a parent, it just has to be gut-wrenching.
Anytime I hear about this, I think about that. Could that be my son? And that's how I read that. And I can't imagine, of course, Kyle Beach talked about how his mother was devastated by this too. It is appalling what happened to this young man. It's appalling that the Blackhawks could have stopped beyond what happened with Kyle Beach, and they didn't. It's appalling that a couple more college players got assaulted, and then a teenager got assaulted. And it's appalling that Kyle Beach is the only one that really took ownership, and he apologized to that young man when he shouldn't. He should have no guilt as to what happened. And so the fact is, the Blackhawks had an opportunity to really be the beacon light against assault. And they decided it was more important to have a Stanley Cup raised rather than taking care of their own. And I can't imagine, now all these people are involved. I want to ask them, what about, like, would you ask me, how do you feel? Because I know all of them are parents, and you did nothing. You did absolutely nothing. And so I'm very emotional about it. I am angry about it. And I feel so much empathy for Kyle Beach and all the anybody that's been involved. But in this particular story, definitely all these victims because of one deranged man who used his power. He used his power. He threatened him physically, and he threatened his job. He threatened his livelihood, and he got away with it until now.
The fact that, you know, Philip Vincent, who actually has a career in law enforcement, I think he worked in law enforcement for like about 6 or 7 years, you know, prior to being a hockey coach. The fact that they didn't listen to him, they could have just, you know, they couldn't, I don't want to say nip this in the bud, but they could have, you know, done the right thing, like you said, Cheryl, and said, hey, you know what, you guys need to look at this, you know, this is happening. And then, you know, the fact that, you know, Mr. Beach had to be subjected to homophobic slurs, which I believe that did happen. It's just, you know, I know you've been very emotional about it because I've listened to you in your reports, but it just makes it sick to your stomach, you know, as I was saying earlier about, like, they could have been revered had they had done the right thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the fact that them win the cup. Oh, the guys won the cup for the first time in, you know, 50 some years, and yet you didn't be able to do this. You stopped this from happening. So it's just, I want you to kind of reiterate how you feel about that. That's something that they should have done.
Well, when you look at the timeline, when you read that report, and you see, if you know, the assault happened early in May 8th or 9th.
Yeah.
They had a meeting May 23rd on the night that they won their conference finals to go to the Stanley Cup. So you have those 2 weeks. But then they wait to June 14th. John McDonough waited to June 14th to go to HR and tell them, look, we got a situation here you got to handle. And the person that handled it, she has been fired too. I found out from a source yesterday.
Yeah.
She offered him 2 things: resignation or an investigation. Why would you even offer him the second choice of a resignation? And he was able to get $15,000 payoff. I mean, a playoff money. He was able to get a ring. He had his name on the cup, which is now going to be X'd off because Rocky Wirtz has sent a letter to the Hall of Fame today to do that. And he got to have the cup at his home. He got to celebrate with everybody. And Kyle Beach, when he talked about having to watch that in front of him, how disgusting that is, that was allowed to happen. And 11 years go by. And if it wasn't for this lawsuit, we would never have known. And thankfully, my colleagues at BEZ, Tony Arnold and Dave McKinney, found it in May. Yeah. They found it. They called me up and they said, look, Cheryl, this is what we have. And I was shocked. And I helped them fill in some blanks that they didn't have because they're not sports people. So I don't, it may have come out at some point, but and we were one of the only stations that actually did anything. Most of the other outlets didn't do anything for a long time. And you have to tip your cap off to the people in Canada who did do something more, because they actually have more access to people than some of us have down here.
Cheryl Raye Stout from WBEZ FM 91.5 in Chicago is joining us here on Second City Sports. We're live and in living color. Sid Lakeena here with you right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Cheryl, and speaking of coverage, I know that the current shout out to all the current Blackhawks beat writers like Ben Pope of the Sun-Times and Mark Lazarus, now of The Athletic, of course, Chris Cook. I'll bring those last two names up because I've been reading on Twitter on both those gentlemen. I'm talking about Mark Lazarus, who started in 2013 when he was with the Sun-Times at the time, right, and Chris Cook, who was covering the Blackhawks when he was with the Tribune during that time. I know he's working for the organization now, but some fans,
he's not.
He's not anymore? Okay.
No.
Okay. But he was covering them at the time when he was with the Tribune. And fans and other followers had been coming after them for the last couple of days and saying, like, if you knew something, why didn't you say something about that? And I know that you guys as reporters that you're tipped to various kinds of information, but you can't report it because you don't have enough sources and what have you. But I wanted to ask you, has anybody, for the lack of a better term, come after you? Because I know you've been covering Chicago sports for a long time. Have anybody been chastising you or coming after you and saying that you alleged that you knew something, you didn't do anything about it, or you reported it?
No, and I
Okay.
think what was taken out of context with what Kyle said when he said that the media knew, and you think about it back then, because Twitter was there,
Hmm.
and the Blackhawks had their own social media people. Those were the only media people that would be inside the bubble. Let's put it that way.
Mhm.
So so they may have known, those people that work the cameras and those are. I'm not saying that they did, but they
Hmm.
may have known. Whereas the regular mainstream media would not have, if they found that story, if they knew that story, there's no way would they keep quiet on it. No way. Mm-mm. Especially those
Okay.
particular people you mentioned. And
Hmm.
that's why it's disheartening that people are using social media to attack anybody about that.
Hmm.
Because believe me, I know all these people, and they would never be silent about something like that. Because again, they're parents. They also care about being right and being righteous about
Mhm.
something like this.
What I mean, the thing that's what's going on the ice is pretty secondary, right now.
Because they
But
suck.
yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, that's exactly. I mean, especially the top. They got a new assistant GM. Bowman's gone. I've heard some names. Maybe Eddie O, because he hasn't really said whether or not he wants to go into doing media still. Kevin Weeks, who's doing media right now, but has front office experience. So people have said Marion Hosta's name, has kind of been brought up to sort of be the new GM or to work in the operation. So who do you think are some of the names? Like, who do you think that might be able to kind of, sort of like wipe the slate clean, if you will? Not I shouldn't say it like that, but maybe to kind of like, sort of repair the image, I guess, if that's a good way to say it.
You know what? To be honest, I think they have to go outside the organization big time. I think they have to go far away from anybody that's has had any. And I love Eddie O. Trust me, I do. And he's as honest as the day is long. There's no doubt
Yeah.
about it. But
Hmm.
but that's too much for him to handle, especially with all the health issues he's had. I'm sure he'd like to do it, but you have to take that into consideration. They have to go be, and they better make sure that they vet this person out no matter what. They have to
Mhm.
vet them out, and they got to make
Hmm.
sure that there's somebody. I don't have a name because I don't know enough about that echelon. I mean, there's got to be somebody in an organization that could come in there. But to be perfectly frank, this organization is dead. They're dead. There's no way that they're going to easily come back from this. There's no springboard, because it's not just what's on the ice. It's just that they now have a reputation that they cannot fix easily, and it could be the only way that they could survive is if it's sold completely, and you have completely everyone is gone. And I appreciate that in the investigation they said that the Wirtz family had no knowledge of it, but it'll always be attached to them too, because it's still under their watch that this happened. So long answer short, I don't know. And I just think it's going to be a real hard challenge. And think about Jamie Faulkner, who
Yeah.
just became on in December to be the second president next to Stan Bowman. What a mess she has to deal with right now.
Yeah.
It's a mess.
Last question from me, Cheryl, before we move on to other subjects. Dealing with this Blackhawks investigation, of course, Jonathan Tays and Patrick Kane both defended Kevin Cheveldayoff and Coach Q and Al McIsaac in their comments the other night before the game against Toronto. I got why they did it, because they're those individuals who were responsible for them being in a Hawks uniform. But if Jonathan Tays especially, I know some people were giving him a grace period because he was a teenager at the time when he got the C on his jersey, but
Mm.
I thought it was inappropriate of what I disagree with what he said the other night. He should have taken better leadership. Of course, him and Kane are the two remaining players from that 2010 championship team. Do you think, at best, and there's been some conversation over the last 24 hours, do you think for the White Blackhawks organization to wipe this slate totally clean to treat both these guys?
Yeah, that's a possibility. I mean, but it doesn't matter wherever they go; it's going to happen to them. He, that was on the post game against Toronto, and I was on that call, and I raised my hand. I was denied to ask a question. So I have my thoughts on that because I think they're angry with my station. But to have Taves and Kane say what they said, as soon as they said it, each time, and I went, "Oh my God, you don't get it." And so because they made it about themselves and not looking at the big picture of what the effect was. And even Jeremy Colleton, who today, just within the last hour, he talked about, and someone asked about Joe Quenneville, and he says, I don't want to talk about Joe. I want to talk about the victims. I want, so he got it. He's getting it. But for them, they may have to trade him, not just because of that, just because they need some help on this team, because it stinks. It really is. It's a really bad team right now. But no matter what team's going to want them though with this, there will always, they will have more publicity because of what happened here. When they go someplace else, it's all they'll be asked about.
Well, let's
they're lucky with Zoom because that could reduce who can ask anything and when and how much.
Well, let's lighten the mood for a second, Cheryl. The Bulls, they lost a tough one last night to the Knicks. Zach LaVine has a bad thumb and is not a shooting hand. It could be an issue going forward. What do you think the ceiling is for the Bulls this year?
I think the only concern I have for them is size. They don't have size, and the thing with Zach was telling us last night, it's dribbling that causes him the issue with his hand, not shooting. It doesn't affect his shooting at all. But this is a good team. This is a team that could make the playoffs, and health is going to be a big factor, like it is for anybody, anytime. But I like the way that they play. I like the way that they attack. I love the way they're disruptive on defense. Lonzo Ball and Alex Caruso, and if you really watch Zach LaVine on defense, which when you're at the game, you could actually see it better than what they show on TV. He's played solid defense too. So you have all these really good parts. The only thing they get killed on rebounding because they don't have the size, and that's what hurt them last night. But then when we saw their defense do the last 3 minutes of the game, they were down by 14, and they had a chance to win it. They got it. They went on a 13-0 run, and they had a chance to win it. And they didn't. That's stuff they have to get used to. They have to get used to who gets the shot. Is it Zach or is it DeMar? But that's going to be worked out. But last night was a great game for them to know that they could win against a team like this, that they had the opportunity. And so I really like the way it's been put together. I still think that they need to, look out for another big man to help them, because right now Vukovic is not really a rim protector, and that's what they need, a rim protector, somebody that can grab offensive rebounds and defensive rebounds, and that's the only thing. But I do, and what was fun last night was because it was Joakim Noah night, and you had all the former Bulls from that era, and there were tons of. In fact, Thabo Sefolosha flew in from Switzerland. His dad came in from Africa. They had Lou Alding, Kirk Heinrich, you name it, Scalabrini, they're all there. And last night, the excitement of the fans in that game was reminiscent of when those guys played. And that's what was cool, because I think there's an energy, there's a likability of this team. And I give Billy Donovan credit and Arturas Karnisovas. I think that they have something special going on.
Cheryl Raye Stout from WBEZ 91.5 FM, Chicago sports reporter and Chicago sports historian. She's with us on #Football Friday right here on Second City Sports on Sports on Chicago City. Lakeena here with you. Cheryl, I was going to ask you, watching the game last night, you could tell the United Center, the Bulls are back and the fans are into it. I wanted to ask you about the Joakim Noah. He was honored last night, as you well know. What is your favorite Joakim Noah story or moment that stands out to you from your years covering him?
You know what? It doesn't have to be a moment on the court. Of course, what he did against Boston. We had the steal and in the area with Boston and beating the Miami Heat. When they were defending champions. Yeah. It's just Joakim. If you spend any time with him, there's something special. And I talked to Billy Donovan the other day. I said to him, you look at what Joakim did his junior year at Florida. Mm-hmm. and he went to championship, and he could have been the number one pick that year, and he stayed another year with the other players. I'm not discrediting them, but here's a guy that came from means, and you know what I mean, and he decided to stay in college, and he did that, and they won again, and the fire that he had, the intensity he had, but with that energy and everything, is a man that is kind and decent, caring. You know, it kind of after this week of this insanity that happened with the Blackhawks, it kind of gave me that moment of pleasure to be able to talk to him one-on-one last night, and he's giving me these hugs, you know, and I'm like, he called me mama, you know.
Oh,
but there's something about him that's childlike yet responsible, and the fact is that he cares so much. His Noah's Ark Foundation in Chicago has done a lot. He's been working with gangs. He's been working, trying to solve some issues here. He didn't go away when his mother is very, very much involved with the organization here. So when you have all that, and the fact that all these people wanted to be there last night for him, what does that say about him? He's infectious. He's funny. He doesn't like Cleveland, but it's just seeing him, and Derek Rose, who adores him, and Taj Gibson, who adores him, and everyone. No one has a bad word to say about him, except sometimes he could get on people's nerves as far as his intensity, but it isn't a bad intensity; it's a good intensity.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, I think Tibbs were sharing stories about how they kind of clashed a little bit, but I saw they shared a really big hug too. That was really cool to see. Let's talk a little Bears for a second, because we got to. I know, right? I guess we have to.
Hashtag Bears poop again.
Yeah, get the poop going. Do you think they have a shot of winning these next two games for their bye? Of course, they host San Fran on Sunday. They go at Pittsburgh next weekend. With all the injuries, Khalil Mack might not play, and Fields is struggling. Where do you see the Bears, going forward?
Well, every game's going to be a struggle for them. Got some good news just now. Robert Quinn and Elijah Wilkinson are off the COVID list, so you have those guys back, which is important. Mack's foot is probably going to keep him from playing. It's San Francisco's they're in deep doo-doo themselves. They have injuries. They can't figure out their quarterback situation for sure. Kyle Shanahan is on the hot seat, and it's been interesting all week long. We haven't been able to go to Hallis Hall to do in-person interviews. Actually, on Monday I went up there and they said, "Oh, we're going to do it on Zoom." I'm like, "Great!" I went all the way up there to be on Zoom because Matt Nagy's in COVID protocols right now, and still is. They're a team that doesn't seem like they're prepared for some of these games. And that was concerning against Tampa. They didn't seem prepared. And the fact is, when you had a right tackle that had not even practiced as a starter, that went in, that they had to throw in there, and then they had to pull him out, and Simmons, and they put in Alex Bars. I'm concerned about the mental process that Justin Fields has to deal with right now. I'm concerned with his confidence right now. He's going to take some of the blames for some of these things because he's still learning how to read defenses, but he doesn't have the tools. He doesn't have the weapons around him that can help him. And the fact is, you've got Allen Robinson, and he's like on an island and nothing is working there. And the offensive line, like the running game the running game is the only thing that's been good, but the running game should be able to set up the passing game. And that doesn't make sense. It's not happening. So I think they could win on Sunday, but forget about Pittsburgh. There's no way they'll win in Pittsburgh.
I guess Ben Roethlisberger will have the performance of his life, even though all of 39 years old and broken. Oh boy, that'll be typical Bears, right?
Yeah, it could be. I mean, the sad part, you're talking about a defense that is the oldest defense in the league, and they've had a lot of former All-Pro players on it, and they're at what point in that locker room are they lost to Matt Nagy? They're not yet, just yet, but they could be, and that would be problematic. And then you'll see it. You'll see guys going. You will see guys that didn't practice or had some injury and just they're not going to play on Sunday. That's a concern.
Yep. Armando Lara Jr., one of our viewers, says Nagy Schemus was wrong. We couldn't agree with you more, Armando. Yeah, that's Armando checking in. Last a couple of moments with Cheryl Raye Stout from WBZ in Chicago, right here on Sports Zone Chicago on Second City Sports. Still Lakeena here with you. Cheryl, let's go to baseball. My White Sox, of course, it was very disappointing. Of course, I had them going to the American League Championship Series, but of course, that didn't happen. They lost to the Houston Astros, who are currently tied with the Braves in this year's World Series at one game apiece. What is the biggest need for the White Sox going into this offseason, providing that we don't have a potential long work stoppage?
Yeah, that CBA December 1st is going to be interesting. I think they have to address second base. I think they have to figure out right field. I do love Gavin Sheets.
Yes,
I mean,
Love
you know,
him.
and I think if you could sign somebody or make a trade, they have to seal that. But you have to look at their starters right now. You know that Carlos Rodon cannot go full season, so I don't see him back. I would be surprised. And you have to just decide with Michael Kopech, is he definitely going to be one of your starters? And I think that the answer is yes. And Craig Kimbrough, what do you do with him? Do you retain him, or do you pick up his option and then trade him? So those are questions they have to figure out, and they got to do better. They have to do much better with their on the field defense and some of the little things like base running and throwing to the cutoff man and things like that. And now that we know that Grandal had to have another knee surgery, because his unable to block the plate cost them. I mean, how many times was there a wild pitch in a key situation that Houston took advantage of? When you watch what Houston can do defensively, that's what you would like to instill that with the White Sox. They need to have that type where they don't make mistakes, and if they do, they know how to fix it. And that's where I think the White Sox have to make some definite changes and additions.
Also, Houston was stealing bases on them too. So,
it
was ridiculous.
Yeah.
Well, that a lot of that was on the pitchers because they couldn't. They didn't watch. That's part of their little problems that they have. They weren't watching the runners. All they had to do was throw to first base a few times. And that Grandal had some issues. We now know his knee was worse than what we thought.
Well, let's talk about the Northsiders for a second here, Cheryl. Last question for me. Carter Hawkins, new GM for the Cubs, kind of has that sort of like that Jed Hoarder quality to him. What direction do you think the Cubs are going to go going into next season? Provided that we don't have a long work stoppage.
Well, the hire is smart because what did Cleveland Indians do better than most teams? Starting pitching and developing pitchers, and that's what have the Cubs lacked. Starting pitchers, developing pitchers. So if he could help fix that, that will put them in a real good situation. It's a team that they say they're going to spend money, and they're going to go out for some free agents. But do free agents want to come here? That's a bigger question. I mean, you may have some money, and again with the collective bargaining agreement, we don't even know what's going to happen, how it's going to happen. How do you fix some of the things that they need? A shortstop. There's several that's going to be on the market. They and to think that Patrick Wisdom and Swindell are answers. I don't know. I've talked to scouts. They don't believe it. I think Frank could be off the bench, but Patrick Wisdom they don't think is quite a fit for a team right now. I mean, he had lightning in the bottle, but then again, after the lightning went away, so did some of his ability to hit the home runs.
Yeah.
All right, that was Cheryl Raye Stout, our Chicago sports historian and sports reporter from WBEZ 91.5 FM here in Chicago. Cheryl, as always, thank you so much for joining us today right here on Second City Sports Live and in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Thank you very much for taking time on your busy schedule to join us. You keep up the great work, young lady, and we'll have you on again soon.
Thank
you,
you.
Cheryl.
You're both a delight. Have a great Halloween.
We're back at
You too.
You too. Stay safe. You and your family stay safe.
Okay, bye-bye.
All right, take care. Once again, that was Miss Cheryl Raye Stout from WBEZ, Chicago sports reporter here in Chicago. You're listening to Second City Sports right here on Sports Zone Chicago City. Lakeena here with you. I want to pull up this comment from our good friend Armando Lara Jr. Noah was getting gas on Division by my son's high school, Holy Trinity. One kid yelled in the hallway. Noah was at the gas station getting gas. That high school empty and surrounded him. And he and Noah started laughing at the situation and stayed about 15 minutes shaking hands, taking pictures with the kids. They were on Cloud 9 meeting him. And that's why he's so loved here in the city, Lakeena, talking about Joakim Noah. You know, he was a fan favorite. I liked him as well. I like Taj Gibson too, but Joakim Noah brought that energy every night. And like Cheryl said, it was annoying to the opponents, but it was annoying to his teammates. I'm bringing the energy to the court every night. He cared about the fans and still do to this day. That's why he's been hired as the new Bulls ambassador.
Well, and also too, he's became like a cult figure. I'm talking about him to the point where he's just beloved here, like you said. And listen to Armando's story. I think that's sort of indicative of what we saw with Noah. I'm sure there are a lot of folks here in Chicago who have similar stories like it. I mean, and also it's great. It's great to see him and look, him and Billy Donovan reconnecting. Of course, as Cheryl said, they won 2 championships together when Coach Donovan was at Florida, and that just to see that. They became a power, basically thanks to him and Torian Green and among others. But
he's working in the organization now.
Yes,
Torian
he is.
Green as a player development.
Yes, and I think Al Horford is still playing too somewhere, if I'm not mistaken. But another big part, yeah. So it was just great to see. And Tabos, like Cheryl said, Tabos came all the way from Switzerland to come see him. You saw Omar Asik, you saw Kirk Heinrich, of course. Luol Deng. I mean, to see all those players come together, it just shows you how beloved Noah is, and the fact that it's great to see that he is going to be around a little bit more. Him now being the new Bulls ambassador.
Yes, it's a great thing to see. You're listening to Second City Sports right here on Sports Zone Chicago, live and in living color. City Lakeena here with you. We have less than 10 minutes left, Lakeena, in this first hour. Let's go into our hashtag Football Friday coverage. Let's go into the college football game. Let's get to a few of these games as possible in the top 25 in college football. Of course, tomorrow's game will start with number 6 ranked Michigan taking on number 8 Michigan State. That's the big new Saturday game on Fox at 11 o'clock. Who do you see taking this one? I say Michigan State by 3. Michigan is favored by 4.
Yeah, it's going to be close. To me, rain might be a factor too, because the rain's expected. The rain that we're getting here in Chicago, they're going to get over in East Lansing. To me, I think it's going to depend on who can slow down the running game. I mean, both teams can run the ball very well, and I think that's going to be the key. And I think the ground game is going to be used a little bit more because the weather is going to be a factor. And look, I think Mel Tucker, there's some rumors about he might be going to maybe USC or might be going back to the NFL. I don't know. I don't know if maybe that's true or not. But and also too, I think Harbaugh finally has players that are kind of play like him. So it's going to be very interesting. Michigan's got some great running. Michigan got some great running backs. Blake Corum and Hassan Hawkins, and of course, Michigan State's like Ken Walker, Jr. and the second, I should say. And look, I think it's really going to depend on whose defenses can slow down the run game. I think that's going to be the key.
Staying with the Big Ten, number 9, Iowa, the Hawkeyes will travel to Madison to take on the Wisconsin Badgers at 11 o'clock. That game's on ESPN. Iowa's at 6-1. Wisconsin getting back on track at 4-3. Wisconsin's favored by 3.5.
I'm not surprised by that because I think Wisconsin, they upset Purdue last week. So I think they're getting better at the right time. I think, Paul Chris might have his guys kind of playing into his system. So this could very well end up being, I think Iowa should be on upset alert.
ABC's early game at 11 o'clock tomorrow will have number 16 Baylor. The Bears will host the Texas Longhorns, and Baylor is favored by 2.5.
Yeah, I think Baylor could probably look. Texas, they just don't have they've got the players, but B.J. Robinson, of course, but Baylor's got a pretty solid defense, so we'll see if they can slow him down. Look, these two teams always play well. They have played well together in the last few years, especially. So this could be a back and forth game. I mean, if you're Baylor, what's the line?
Baylor, let me check real quick. It's 2.5.
Yeah, I probably would take that because it probably could it'll come down to a field goal.
On the Big Ten Network at 11 o'clock, is 3 and 4 Rutgers traveling to Champaign to face the Fighting Atlanta at 3 and 5. The Atlanta coming off that upset last week in about 12 overtimes at Penn State. Do you think Penn State, the Penn State upset, will get these guys on cloud 9, or do you think that Rutgers can steal a victory?
Well, Rutgers have had their struggles lately too, so I think Illinois, typical Illinois could be like the letdown game for them, but we'll just have to wait and see. It should be a fun game though. Another game from that Big Ten Network. We're kind of their regional coverage, if you will. Indiana and Maryland. What do you think about that one?
Ooh, Indiana and Maryland. Of course, Maryland's at 4 and 3. Indiana at 2 and 5. Indiana's been one of those disappointing teams in college football this year. Of course, we saw them get their butts handed to them by Ohio State a week or so ago.
Maryland. I think they no more primetime games for Indiana this year.
Right.
So
that's their punishment. So this could be a close game, but I can see Maryland squeaking out of there with a victory. Going back to the schedule, we'll have number 22 Iowa State. They'll travel to Morgantown to face the West Virginia at 1 p.m. on the Big 12 ESPN Plus. Iowa State ranked 22, as I mentioned. They're checking at 5 and 2. West Virginia at 3 and 4.
West Virginia can score. They're coming off a bye. We'll see if this is not going to be a letdown game for Iowa State. So they're going to have to have, they're going to have a hard time. Slow it down, West Virginia. So it should be a fun one. An early Pac-12 game, I should say, got Wazoo against Arizona State. Should be a fun one on FS1.
Yes, Arizona State. Herm Edwards at 5 and 2. The Cougars at 4 and 4. This is going to be a close one. Arizona State is favored by 16.5, but I got a sneaky feeling Washington State can make it interesting for a while. I got that sneaky feeling. But Herm Edwards and Arizona State, the Sun Devils should win this one.
Yeah, they should. The annual powwow in Jacksonville. You got number 1 Georgia against Florida on CBS at 2:30.
Yeah, Georgia is favored by 14. Florida, they're struggling at 4 and 3. Of course, Georgia's the number 1 ranked team in the country at 6 and 0. Florida can make this interesting, but I still see Georgia win. I don't know if Georgia's going to cover that 14. Maybe they do barely, but I still see Georgia winning. Maybe Florida can make this interesting for a while.
Yeah.
Pass the national anthem.
Oh, well, yeah, maybe. So Texas Tech and Oklahoma. This is interesting, though. They actually, Texas Tech actually fired their coach. They're 5 and 3.
I saw that, yeah.
That was kind of strange to me. Like, what's going on? Unless they actually have a guy lined up, I don't get it. Will that upheaval, can Oklahoma take advantage of upheaval going on with the Red Raiders?
Yep, at 2:30 on the Big Ten Network in Evanston, Illinois, the 3 and 4 Northwestern Wildcats will host the 5 and 2 Minnesota Golden Gophers. Can Pat Fitzgerald's crew get back to 500?
Gonna be a tough one against Minnesota. I think Minnesota started to get a little bit better too. So
Minnesota's favored by 7.5.
Yeah, I take the under. I think Northwestern, may have enough to kind of hang with the Gophers, but I think they'll pull it out late. Purdue and Nebraska. That's the 2:30 game on ESPN2.
Yeah, going back to the schedule now at 6 p.m. on ESPN, we have number 10 Ole Miss checking in at 6 and 1. They'll travel to Auburn to take on the Tigers, who are ranked 18th in the country. Auburn checks in at 5 and 2 in SEC action.
Auburn's kind of been up and down. Ole Miss, we'll see if they're starting to find their groove. Should be a fun one down there at Jordan-Hare in Auburn.
At 6 p.m. on the Pac-12 Network, the California Bears, they are at 2 and 5, but they host the surprising Oregon State Beavers. They check in at 5 and 2. Oregon State is favored by only 1.5.
That should be an interesting one. I think no one thought Oregon State would be, this good, but Cal's kind of had their struggles. Some people thought that they'd be a little bit better, but should be a fun one down there in Berkeley.
Yeah, a couple more games to go with you guys quickly. Number 20, the Penn State Nittany Lions. They'll travel to the Horseshoe to take on the number 5 ranked Ohio State Buckeyes. That's the Saturday primetime game on ABC at 6:30. We'll get to that other game in a minute. Ohio State is favored by 19.5.
Sean Clifford should be back for Penn State. We'll see if Penn State still has a sour taste in their mouth after losing to Illinois in 9 overtimes. Ohio State's getting better. No one's really talking about them. CJ Stroud's trying to make a case for Heisman. He's only a freshman. So should be a fun one over there in Columbus.
Speaking of Lakeena's favorite team for 2021, the number 11 ranked Notre Dame Fighting Irish, they'll host North Carolina tomorrow on NBC at 6:30 from South Bend. Notre Dame is favored by 3.5.
It'll be very interesting though to see how North Carolina kind of responds, because they kind of had their struggles. People thought that they would be a good team, but then they may have been overrated. So, we'll see what happens in South Bend.
Yeah, number 25 BYU will host Virginia, the Cavaliers. Both teams check in at 6-2. They'll be on ESPN2 tomorrow at 9:15 p.m. BYU is favored by 2.5. And number 21 San Diego State, they check in at 7-0. They'll host 6-2 Fresno State. That's at 9:30 on CBS Sports Network. We all know that you love your West Coast football.
Should be two West Coast games. I'm definitely gonna be staying up for both of them. Both have big implications for various reasons. So should be entertaining as usual on the West Coast.
Yes, it should be very entertaining. Hour number 1 in the books. Hour number 2 straight ahead as you're listening to Second City Sports on the hashtag Football Friday. We're live in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid Lakeena here with you. When we return, Chicago native and KRON-TV sports reporter from the Bay Area, Miss Kylen Mills, will hop on with us to give us our thoughts on the preview for the 49ers and Bears. It goes down this Sunday on the Lakefront at noon, and we'll get our thoughts about the Warriors and her growing up here in the Chicagoland area. You're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago.
AutomotiveMap.com presents the Sports Flash on the Sports Zone Chicago. In Sunday's Major League Baseball action, the Cubs got pounded 9-1 at home against Kansas City. The White Sox shut out on the road 9-0 at Tampa. NFL preseason on Saturday, the Bills hammered the Bears 41-15. Andy Dalton, 11 of 17 passing, 146 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. Justin Fields, 9 of 19 for 80 yards. Head coach Matt Nagy says Dalton remains the Week 1 starter and that Fields is ahead of schedule.
When you look at a guy like Justin and you see the things that he's doing, are there some things that he can get better at? Yeah, for sure. That's going to be, we're going to say that 3 years from now. But at the same point in time, for him, there's also things that he's doing better probably than we thought coming into this, which is good too. Like, that's what we want. We want that to happen.
Download the free Score app. Lightning fast updates so you never miss a thing. It's why the Score app is one of North America's most popular sports apps. I'm Chuck Sanders. That's the Sports Flash on the Sports Zone Chicago.
Blue Star medicated ointment works fast to relieve the pain and itch of almost any skin irritation.
It's amazing. It's like as soon as you put it on, you can feel it working. We've had Blue Star in the family for years. It works on everything.
I love the cooling sensation on my athlete's foot.
What a relief for my eczema.
Nothing worked on my dry, cracked skin until I tried Blue Star.
Blue Star is great for scalp itch.
Look for the white box with the Blue Star in the first aid section. Feel Blue Star work fast or your money back.
Want to hear something amazing? Discover matches all the cash back you earn on your credit card at the end of your first year, automatically, dollar for dollar, with no limit on how much you can earn. Extra cash? Come on, how amazing is that? In fact, it's even more amazing when you realize all the places where Discover is accepted. 99% of places in the U.S. that take credit cards. So when it comes to Discover, get used to hearing yes more often. Learn more at discover.com/yes. 2021 Nielsen Report. Limitations apply.
Welcome back to hour number 2 of Second City Sports on the hashtag Football Friday, baby. Live in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago, along with Miss Lakeena McGee. I am Sydney Brown. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can follow me at Lakeena McGee on the Twitter and Lakeena_McGee on the IG.
And if you want to make a comment or have a question for us or any of our topics during today's show, you could do so by going to Sports Zone Chicago on Facebook or Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube, place your comments or questions in the comment section. Lakeena will get them up on the screen for you. But if you decide to do something stupid or decide to troll, Lakeena will politely give you the boot.
Good day.
As we wait for Kylen Mills from KRON-TV to join us, let's get into our preview, Lakeena, for the Chicago Bears and the San Francisco 49ers. It will take place on the lakefront on Sunday afternoon. You can watch that game on Fox at high noon. Adam Amin, the Chicago Bulls announcer, speaking of the Bulls, he'll be stepping in for Kevin Burkhardt. It will be Adam Amin, Pam Oliver, and Greg Olson will be doing his second Bears game this season for Fox. So they'll be your announcing crew for that contest coming up this Sunday. Lakeena, the 49ers look terrible last Sunday in front of a national audience, losing to the Indianapolis Colts by 12. Of course, we discussed the Bears very limited in our last show. They got embarrassed by Tom Brady and the GOAT and his Buccaneers crew by the score of 35-3. Lakeena, the Bears have looked terrible in 2 road games so far this year, but they still sit with an opportunity to go back to 500. They haven't been 500 since they were 2-2 when they beat the Detroit Lions a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, they do, and I think Cheryl broke the news just a few minutes ago that Elijah Wilkinson's been cleared. Robert Quinn's been cleared through COVID, so that should help. Now, Matt Nagy probably won't be cleared. I'm assuming by the time he's been doing this from an undisclosed location. So I don't know if he's in a bunker somewhere up north. I mean, I don't know. I guess they have to do it. You're coaching football. You don't have government secrets. But I digress. But I mean, look, do they have a chance to win? Sure. I mean, the 49ers are kind of in a similar situation with the Bears, with their quarterback situation. Lance is questionable, so we'll see if we'll see him on Sunday. Samuel's questionable as well. DB Samuel, also Trent Williams, he may not be able to play. Kittle, we know Kittle's going to be out. Probably won't be able to come back for another couple of weeks. And their defense has had some issues too. Kinlaw, Marcel Harris. I mean, they've got some issues too. But look, could the Bears take advantage? Sure. Do they have a chance to win the game? Sure, they do. But I'm not going to sit here. Look, I mean, we'll get to our picks in a second, but. The 49ers, I mean, they just had some bad luck, I think, with injuries and such. So that's a okay.
Yeah, taking a look at the numbers for both teams in terms of rankings on offense, the Bears are ranked 30th. That's third from the bottom in the National Football League. San Francisco, not that much better with Jimmy Garoppolo playing. They are ranked number 27. In total defense, the Bears are ranked 14th out of that shellacking at Tampa last week. San Francisco, as we talked about before, these two teams very, very much mirror each other. San Francisco is number 2 in the NFL in total defense. As far as passing, the Bears are ranked dead last, while San Francisco is 4th from the bottom at number 28. As far as rushing is concerned, the Bears are ranked 6th overall, and San Francisco checks it at number 19. Lakeena, we saw San Francisco use the formula a couple of years ago, going to the Super Bowl, running the ball and playing strong defense. Of course, Jimmy Garoppolo didn't make the big play as he had to during that Super Bowl a couple of years ago. But as far as this year is concerned, he's been getting off to slow starts, and we'll see what the Bears defense, perhaps without Khalil Mack, can do this Sunday.
Should be very interesting. I believe our guest has joined us. Sid, please introduce her for us.
Join us now. She's a Chicago native of KRON Television out there in the Bay Area. She covers the 49ers along with the other teams in the Bay Area for that station. There's the one and only Miss Kylen Mills. Kylen, welcome to Second City Sports right here on Sports Zone Chicago. How are you doing today?
Hey, Sydney and Lakeena. Thank you so much for having me. Doing awesome today. Hope you guys are doing awesome as well. Very interested to see how this weekend's football matchup shakes out. We've got all of our teams, the Warriors back in action, the 49ers. So it's a fun time to be in the Bay Area. However, We'd like to see some more wins down at Levi Stadium. So it was a little bit rough. I was there for the Sunday night football game. It was a complete rain out, and it was ugly. So
how was that game? Because I'm sure it had to have been I don't want to say it was a torrential pour down, but it looked like it was raining really hard. The balls were slippery. I see that some of the ball guys had to kind of keep wiping the ball. What was it like in the sidelines?
Yeah, that Sunday night football game this past weekend was just a mess. So to give you guys a little bit of perspective, this was the worst storm or rainstorm anyway that we've gotten in the Bay Area in years. And it just so happened to fall on the day that the 49ers were playing Sunday night football hosting the Colts. So that was fun. 20-mile-per-hour winds to start the game, heavy to medium rain throughout the entire game. And it had rained all day. Like the entire area was soaked, streets were flooded. You got people trying to get into Levi Stadium. It was a little bit of a hot mess. I will say 49ers do have very faithful fans. There were still people out there tailgating in 20-mile-per-hour winds and like downpour rain. So kudos to them. I don't know that I would be that dedicated. But then once you got into the stadium, it definitely was a wet game. We saw both quarterbacks, have some trouble gripping the ball. It's tough in those conditions. I mean, it was really, really wet. It did not let up a single minute of that game. It rained medium to heavy every single minute of the game. I don't know, though, that that's an excuse. Not a great performance from Jimmy Garoppolo in that game. Kyle Shanahan, the head coach, has said it throughout the week, probably his worst game of the season. So not trying to use the rain as an excuse, although it definitely was tough. I think a little bit tougher for all the players just to get a hold on the ball. But still a disappointing performance for the 49ers nonetheless. Fans were like bolting out of Levi Stadium to start the fourth quarter. They're like, we're done. Out in the rain.
Yeah. Speaking of anger, of course, Kylen, growing up here in Chicago, this is a Bears town during football season. Of course, Bears fans are angry at Matt Nagy, and rightfully so. And GM Ryan Pace, who rarely talks on Chicago radio outside the network pregame, but that's a whole nother issue. But the fan base are mad at both of them, and rightfully so. Can we say the same thing about the San Francisco 49ers fan base? I know Kyle Shanahan, at least nationally, is on the hot seat, but are the 49ers fans, are some of their anger directed at GM John Lynch, who's in the Hall of Fame, by the way, as a player? But can we say the same thing about the 49ers fans? Are that some of their anger directed towards John Lynch as well?
I would say there is a lot of anger directed at Kyle Shanahan, some directed at John Lynch as well. But it's funny, you guys were talking about how the 49ers and Bears kind of mirror each other this season. And that's another way that they do is honestly, both fan bases, I think, are frustrated with these coaches. Matt Nagy, more so maybe than Kyle Shanahan, but I think that a lot of people are starting to lose the rose-colored goggles in the Bay Area. He initially comes in, you've got to give him a couple seasons. He's known to be this offensive juggernaut for his excellent play calling, creativity. The 49ers in his third season make it to the Super Bowl, don't quite get through, don't quite get the job done, but they make it there. So I think initially after that, there was like this honeymoon phase where everyone's like, oh my gosh, we love Kyle Shanahan. He's coming in here and really making an impact. And then after the disappointing 2020 season, now it's 2021. There aren't as many excuses. We aren't dealing with the COVID season. The 49ers haven't had the injuries that we saw last season. It was just like they were dropping like flies one after the other. This season, there's not that excuse either. So I think a lot of people are starting to point the finger at Kyle Shanahan. I'm seeing a lot of fans turning on him on Twitter. You don't want to go on 49ers Twitter this week if you're Kyle Shanahan. Seriously, it's been rough. I mean, like people are calling for his head. People want him fired. Like now. People are, if not, they're saying that his job needs to be on the chopping block, depending on how the 49ers do in these next few games. And some people, they're like, if they don't win this weekend, we want to see him gone. So the fan base has turned on him, I want to say fairly quickly, but I think that in 2021, there was you saw some of the doubt where people are like, what's actually going on here with this Kyle Shanahan guy? But you just had all these other factors in play. The COVID seasons weren't normal, and the 49ers also had so many injuries. But this year, it's like, what's the excuse here? What's going on? And then people are just getting so frustrated with the quarterback situation. Why will Kyle Shanahan not start rookie Trey Lance? Especially at this point in the season, they're 2-4. Most fans do not see this 49ers team as even being playoff contenders. Definitely not Super Bowl contenders. I think that's very clear. But they're saying, so why not put Trey Lance in the game? Why not give him starts? Why not give him the playing time and the opportunity to develop if we know this team isn't going to win a Super Bowl? And Kyle Shanahan flat out said after Sunday's game, well, I'm not going to just give players time just to get experience. I'm not going to be doing that. Jimmy Garoppolo, there's no open competition. That's what he said after Sunday's games. A lot of us in the media were kind of scratching our heads because we're like, well, Jimmy's 0-3 in his last 3 starts. Your team isn't doing well. Why isn't it an open competition? You traded up to get Trey Lance. He's the potential at least to be a generational talent if developed properly. And, he's injury free and all the other factors are in play. But why isn't there a competition? You traded up for this young man. There are a lot of things that I think fans are really starting to question at this point in the season with the team having lost 4 straight games.
Yeah, Shanahan and Matt Nagy could be brothers.
Yeah. Well, they could, but they're about the same age, so
They could start a support group for the two of them. Just how to deal with some fan hate that they are both getting right now.
Look, we're trying to find some bright spots for the Bears. We're still, Sid and I are still in our friend Chrissy. We're still trying. What about the 49ers? There has to have been some bright spots, right? I mean, Samuel's been good, but he hasn't been able to stay healthy. Trent Williams, he's probably going to be out. The defense is okay. I mean, you got Nick Bosa, you got Eric Armstead, so they're still pretty good. So are there any bright spots with the 49ers?
I mean, first of all, the defense has been solid. In the game against the Colts, I don't think that our defense looked bad necessarily at all. So I think that's been somewhat of a positive, like you said, not outstanding, but we have seen several stars emerging in the run game. I will say Elijah Mitchell, a rookie running back who was picked in the 6th round, is making Kyle Shanahan look a little bit good, or John Lynch at least, depending on whichever one of them had the eyes for him, because he has been injured a couple times, but he had a huge game. I mean, he was what was working well for the 49ers in the first quarter. They were able to score on their opening drive, and Elijah Mitchell had 100 yards in the first half. They didn't turn back as much to the run game in the second half, and a lot of people were questioning why, but rookie 6th round draft pick Elijah Mitchell, I think, has the potential to be a star in this league. He has dealt a little bit with injuries early on, but we saw a really impressive performance out of him. And I think that if the 49ers continue to lean into the run game a little bit, I think that we will see some more players evolve. JaMychal Hasty is another one who was a 5th round draft pick, I think, last season, but he's in his 2nd season, and he's shown some spurts of potentially being really talented. The running game was the big question mark after the 49ers lost Raheem Mostert, who they're expecting to be their go-to guy. But several players have stepped up. So I think that's a positive that we do have some young players with potential. I think there's just too many other question marks, though, for this team to really be a solid team. But I would say run game, potentially a bright spot. I think the offensive line actually has played really well. Another rookie that we saw step up, Jalen Moore, stepped in at left tackle for Trent Williams in this past Sunday's game, and he actually had a really, really nice showing in his first start ever. So that's something that's promising. So, some of the rookies, and you've got Trey Lance, I think they had a really good class come in. The question is, though, why they can't put it all together, but at least those are some positives I would take away.
Chicago native and KRON-TV sports reporter from the Bay Area, Kylen Mills, is kind enough to join us here on a hashtag Football Friday right here on Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid and Lakeena here with you. Before we move on to the Warriors, Kylen, one last question for me regarding the 49ers. Brandon Ayuk, their star wide receiver. I know NBC talked about his target, the number of targets that he's been receiving throughout the season, which has been very limited. Do you expect him to do anything on Sunday, or do you think they'll have a game plan to give him the ball at least? Because as you mentioned, with all the injuries, San Francisco has a lack of offensive playmakers right now.
Yeah, San Francisco does. You're absolutely right, Sid. Whether we'll see him potentially get the ball in his hands more, I don't think so. And Brandon Ayuk has been another big, bizarre question mark for the 49ers this season. Why are they not playing Trey Lance? The number one question. And the number two question people are coming up with is, why aren't they playing Brandon Ayuk? He saw a lot of time last year as a rookie, and he showed a lot of potential. He made some great, really dazzling plays. So a lot of people aren't really understanding why he still hasn't received more plays and just gotten more time this season. It seems to be something weird going on with Kyle Shanahan, where he had openly told the media, well, Brandon Ayuk didn't have a good camp. He didn't come in ready. He didn't look like his usual self. But at this point in the season, we're like, hey, the offense is not working clearly. Why are you not giving him a chance to be a spark when you mentioned there just is a lack of offensive playmakers right now? So there seems to be some kind of weird Kyle Shanahan being stubborn. I don't know, but none of us in the media can really figure out why we haven't seen more Brandon Ayuk, because as a rookie, he really showed flashes of greatness. Given Deebo Samuel was injured last season, all of last season, so you do have to take that into account for why he maybe saw more time. He was up there competing for the wide receiver 1 position, but still this season, they need more playmakers in general. Why not give Brandon Ayuk a chance? I'm not Kyle Shanahan. I don't know that answer, but Kyle Shanahan has been very, very stubborn about giving him that opportunity. I don't think we're going to see it against the Bears. I think they're going to rely heavily on the run game again, just given Jimmy Garoppolo's poor performance he was coming off of last week. And I think both these teams are going to put a lot of stock into the run game. What do you all think?
Yeah, I think the running game is going to be the key. I feel like, you know what, I think, Khalil Herbert actually has shown some flashes, and we just saw that Khalil Mack is going to be out. So that's going to be another thing. So that could help the running game for the 49ers a little bit. So I'm a big fan of A's football, as Sid would accuse me of. So this could be a 9-6, 6-3, 10-7 type of game. I'm already saying it.
I think it's going to be a close and low scoring game for sure.
I have a surprise for all you guys. This game will end in a tie.
We'll deserve that punishment. That could happen too. Okay, you know what? I'm getting depressed talking about both these teams. Let's talk about some good stuff here on the Bay Area. That's going on in the Bay Area. The Warriors.
Throw some Warriors questions at me, please.
Yeah. I mean, look, the Warriors, unfortunately, they lost to the Grizzlies. John Morant is just amazing. Had 30 points. But look, Steph has some good looks. Damian Lee has some good looks late. What do you think the ceiling is for the Warriors? I mean, they're 4-1 right now. That have one of the best records in the West. And Clay's not back yet. He'll probably be back around, I think, December or January, somewhere around there. So what do you think the ceiling is for the Warriors?
I think if the Warriors stay healthy with Klay Thompson back, this team could be contenders. I know there's been a lot of hype. People are saying that, but having seen them in person, I really think they could be. Last night's game was a little bit of an anomaly. They've been playing well early on, but turnovers just absolutely killed the Warriors last night. 22 turnovers. I was at the game. That's every single player who came into the post game said, it was the turnovers. That was 100% what they looked at. That was the stat Steve Kerr looked at. But he's like, the good news is that's something that's fixable. That's something you can clean up. That's something that you can take this as a learning lesson and move forward and, try to do better the next game and potentially win. So that's something that's, I don't want to say easy to fix, but something that's fixable in Steve Kerr's mind anyway. So I think the Warriors could be contenders if Klay Thompson comes back healthy. And that's a really big if. Right now, Christmas, I think, is where they're shooting for. He's supposed to come back and play fully in practice for the first time in the next month. And then that will be very telling as far as when he can come back. Will he stay healthy? But just with all the injuries he's had, an Achilles and an ACL, I feel like it's hard to put all your money on him coming back and being fully healthy and in a full capacity, because for the Warriors to be contenders, he has to be back. They have to have that second threat alongside Steph Curry. Right now, Jordan Poole, the youngster, has been starting at the 2 spot in Klay Thompson's position. But we saw him. He struggled last night, just 9 points. He's still going through some growing pains. He's not ready to be that really second go-to guy behind Steph Curry, the second player who's going to draw defenders away from Curry and maybe give Curry some time. Something interesting last night we were noting in the media is that Steph didn't score in the fourth quarter or overtime. And we asked him about that after the game, and he said, well, I'm at the point in my career where defenses know what I'm going to do. And if they haven't figured it out by early on in the game, they figured it out by the end of the game. Also, something his teammates mentioned is that, well, we've got to do a better job of drawing defenders away from Steph and getting him early shots, because Steph was very hot, 22 points in the first half. Well, of course he's drawing all the defenders, from there on out. If you get burned by Steph once, you learn that you're not looking away from him for a second. But so that means he has to have other perimeter scoring threats that are drawing defenders. And right now, the Warriors don't necessarily have that. Klay Thompson would completely change the game. So I think their season totally hinges on him coming back healthy.
Staying with the Warriors, Kylen, Andrew Wiggins, of course, he made some headlines about his hesitation again in the vaccine. Of course, he got it. It seems like to me, watching him in the first couple of games, that he's really been refined. Of course, he was with the Warriors last year. He had his ups and downs, but it seems like to me this year he's starting to turn around. What do you expect from him this year?
Yeah, Andrew Wiggins has had a great start to the season, Sydney. I think that he'll continue to see a bigger role. I think that he'll continue to fall into a rhythm. 2 seasons ago, he joins the Warriors really during a tumultuous time. Steph Curry had that injury, and, he was forced to pick up a lot of the offensive weight. And that wasn't an easy position to be in. Last season was his first time playing alongside Steph Curry. So you still have a little bit of some of the growing pains for him and just learning how to play with different players. Last season, the Warriors were very close to making it into the postseason. And that was with a team that I don't want to say was an entirely new team, but a lot of players still learning how to play together. Steph had missed that previous season. And then again, you've got emerging stars like Jordan Poole. Andrew Wiggins never played alongside Steph. So I mean, I think it's taken some time just for these players to really gel and build some chemistry. This season, we're seeing a lot better chemistry when it comes to the Warriors. They have had like 30 assists in almost in every game. I don't know what the average is after last night, but we're seeing a lot of assists because they're sharing the ball. They're passing well. There seems to be a good chemistry there, good communication. They talked about it a lot during preseason about, wow, this year's team it's been really easy. And I think that Andrew Wiggins fits in great with that. I think at this point, we're only going to see him continue to fall into a rhythm. He looks more comfortable out there. He looks more confident. He knows when to compliment Steph. He knows when to dish. So I think that he will be an important role player. I just still see that Klay Thompson being the guy, that really draws defenders because of what an incredible shooter he is. Granted, he was not named one of the top 75 NBA players. He was a little salty, but he is claiming that he is the 77th best all-time player in the NBA. That's worth guarding, right? I mean, he's still a sharpshooter. So, but Wiggins, I think, has fit in really nicely, and he seems like he's fully adjusted to the Warriors system now. So I think we'll see a great season from him, or at least I hope.
Yeah, if you saw Thompson's comments after that list came out, he was not very happy that he wasn't on that list. So that was just, but I'm sure some of it he might have been kidding with some parts. I don't know. Yeah. But look, Iggy's back. Andre Iguodala is back with the Warriors. What kind of contributions are they expecting from him? He's going to be like kind of like that, that veteran guide off the bench. He's going to be kind of like a part coach, if you will, helping out with Coach Kerr and the rest of the staff, or. Well, what exactly is good? What are they expecting from Iggy?
That's an interesting point because that's something that Steve Kerr has been asked about a lot. Just last week when I was at Warriors practice, Steve Kerr made a comment that Andre Iguodala might not know this yet, but the second he retires, he's joining my coaching staff. He does have a great veteran presence. I know we all kind of laughed in the media. We're like, oh, he doesn't know it yet, but he's going to. He does have a great veteran presence, and he already at this point is like a player coach because of how many years he has in the league, his experience level. But Steve Kerr also said he wants to make clear that he is not just on the team this year just to be a player coach. He is going to get minutes, and he's going to get meaningful minutes. Andre Iguodala, to me, is still one of the best defenders in the league and easily the best defender for his age. I mean, given how long he's been in the league, we've seen him early in the season. You still see him making shots, making steals. He has great hands, and you don't just lose that. So I think he can still make meaningful contributions off the bench, and we've seen that already in just the Warriors' first couple of games. Moving forward, I think the trick with him is going to be managing minutes and making sure he stays healthy. That's something Iguodala himself has talked about a lot during some of these post games. Well, yeah, now I put in big minutes. I mean, he's put in 24 minutes, for example. He's like, I got to know when to, take the foot off the gas a little bit and now listen to my body and maybe rest, take a day off from practice. So for him, I think that he actually could be a huge presence off the bench and could really help the Warriors, but it's going to be just trying to manage minutes, stay healthy, and do what he's able to do and not too much.
Halfway home with the Chicago native Kylen Mills from KRON Television in the Bay Area is joining us right here on the hashtag Football Friday, live and in living color on Second City Sports Zone Chicago. City Lakeena here with you. Kylen, let's turn up the juice. You're born and raised here in Chicago. We'd like to know where were you? We know you were born in Chicago. City, suburbs, high school, college. Where did it all begin? Where did you get that passion from sports from?
Oh, good question. So technically, don't kill me, but I am a suburban kid. I know people from city proper will be like, oh, well, why do you say you're from Chicago? But hey, if you live outside of Illinois, which I have had to move around all my career, I'm not telling anyone I'm from Elmhurst, Illinois. They have no clue. It's right over their head. So Chicago's in all of my bios and whatever else, but I'm not a Chicago proper girl. I was born and raised in Elmhurst, went to York High School, just in the west suburbs. I stayed around the Chicago area for college. I actually went to Lewis University, which is in southwest suburbs in Romeoville, right near Joliet. Played soccer there for 4 years, played a year of tennis there. They have Division II sports, so it was a lot of fun. Loved playing sports and decided I wanted to combine my love for sports and broadcasting. I got a taste of broadcasting in high school, actually. York had like a morning announcements show, which I don't know if you've seen those at any high schools around you guys lately, but it's kind of becoming a thing. But back in the day, my school started a morning announcements, little TV show that aired for like 5 minutes every morning. And I was like, well, that looks like fun first period. Instead of taking AP stats or something, I'm going to try it. Especially early in the morning. It was first period. So I'm like, this is great. You can kind of just roll in and ease into your day. And the morning announcements crew was kind of fun. So I signed up for the class, fell in love with it. went to Lewis University, studied broadcast journalism, and, I've always been an athlete myself. And obviously growing up in Chicago, how are you not a sports fan if you grow up in Chicago?
There you go.
I was born in 1990, so that'll tell you how old I am. But growing up in an era where the 90s Bulls were like the big thing, like I just loved the Bulls. My dad was a diehard Bulls fan. So, the passion just grew from an early age, but I think that Chicago sports fans in particular are very passionate. It's actually interesting. The Bay Area reminds me a little bit of it just because two fantastic sports towns with very passionate fan bases.
Yes.
But growing up in the Chicago area, it's easy to get sucked in,
Of course. Absolutely.
Don't worry about it, Kylen. The folks
Yeah.
in Aurora, and they will claim Chicago. You from Mount Vernon, so you claim Chicago too. So
Elmhurst isn't that far. Oh, I've heard people from Rockford say they're from Chicago.
There you go. Right.
Yeah, see, there you go. It's all there. I see that you're also a Cubs fan, Kylen. Of course, they got a new GM in Carter Hawkins. Where do you think I know you cover the Giants as well. So where do you think the Cubs? What direction do you think the Cubs are going to go to next season? Assuming that we don't have like a long work stoppage.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, the Cubs. You guys have to bring up a fresh wound. That was tough.
Hey, look at me. I'm a White Sox fan. We lost in the first round of the playoffs, so let's join the party.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. No, that was also a heartbreaker. The White Sox, can we just play in the postseason how we played during the season? Like what is it? Like what's going on down the South Side where I feel like that was such a huge disappointment after how great they looked during the regular season?
Yes, Sid.
Yeah,
Sid, I want some answers.
yes, Sid. Yeah, tell them. I'm neutral, so
then we'll get to the Cubs, but first I want some answers.
For the White Sox, we need second base, right field, which we talked about last hour. Lakeena second base, not second. We need second base with right field. Gavin Sheets, he came in with some big hits, especially with some home runs this year. He's still the last White Sox player to hit a home run in the playoff game. So there goes that. Michael Kopech, I expect him to step into starting rotation next year. And Carlos Rodon, he's a free agent. I was actually at the game against your Cubs, Kylen, back in August, where we struck out 11 through 5.5 innings before they started shutting him down. And he's been good for the Sox after the injury. He had the no-hitter last year, but I think the price that he's going to command, I don't think the Sox are willing to pay for it. So I think that Carlos Rodon, unfortunately, will no longer be in the White Sox uniform.
Well, you're still better off than my Chicago Cubs. This is an entire rebuilding phase. I do want to say something really quickly. Heading into next season, I still am seeing fans on Twitter, on Instagram saying, bring back Chris Bryant, bring back Anthony Rizzo, bring back Javier Baez. I just think those days are over. I don't see any of them coming back to the Cubs. I know a lot of fans would love to see it, but I just think that, unfortunately, the relationships have been soured and they're too far to recover at this point. From the little bit that I've gotten to talk to Chris Bryant while he was with the Giants, it seemed like this was a really, really needed move for him. He was ready to get out of Chicago just because of, I think, the way that some of the negotiations went. And, we don't know all the fine details, but he was relieved flat out when he got the news that he was being traded, but also that he was coming to San Francisco because he ended up at, a potential contender, and though unfortunate ending in Game 5 of the NLDS, but he came into a great program. But I don't see any of the stars that they let go going back to the Cubs. And I know, like I said, I feel like that's something that I see fans still wish for because just there was so much love for Anthony Rizzo, Chris Bryant, and Javier Baez. Like that's something my mom still texts me about. And, she follows all three of them now, sending pictures of what they're doing in the postseason, following them all on Instagram, sending me pictures of family. Oh, look how cute Javier Baez's kids are, and this is really the team for Cubs fans, those are the guys that won the first World Series in over a century. Fans just, I feel like, have such an attachment to those players. It's just going to be I think it's going to take some time for fans to really latch on to whatever direction the Cubs decide to go. But I think they're really going to be starting from scratch. They've got to, make some moves in the offseason because obviously we saw how rough the end of 2021 finished out for them, playing flat out, just some minor league caliber players in some positions. So they're going to have to make some moves, and it looks like they're just going to have to rebuild because I don't think any of the former stars are coming back for sure. As much as fans might like to see it, it was a very sad day. When the news came down, expecting definitely one, maybe two, but to see all three of the core and then, add in a couple others like Kimbrel and whoever else, but it was rough. It was real rough.
Yeah, since we have the last couple minutes with you left, Kylen, we'd like to bring in our buddy from KXRB Radio in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. She's going to join us next to do her football picks. Another Chicagoan, Miss Christine Manika. Christine, welcome to the show. This is Kylen Mills. How are you?
Good. How are you guys?
Good.
Doing
very
good. Doing good.
Happy Halloween.
Yeah, happy Halloween to you too. Don't do anything stupid, Christine.
What's up? All weekend.
So I wanted to bring her on with you, Kylen, because I saw on your Twitter about a week or so ago, you spoke to your alma mater at Lewis University about giving back to the next generation. We try to do what we can in helping the next broadcasters pursue their careers. Talk to us, what was that feeling like?
That's awesome. I think it's so important to try to give back and try to, teach the next generation. That's something I'm super passionate about. Family, friends, former students, I've been trying to work with them. I've got a student that one of my professors hooked me up with last year who I'm still working with, trying to get trying to get them their first job. But it's always awesome. It's awesome to see the, young broadcasting stars coming up, although, they're all still starry-eyed and, well, who does your hair? Where's your makeup artist? I'm like, there's none, kids.
Right.
So forget your ideas that you're going to graduate college and be living in a mansion and have, your hair stylists and all that doing your hair and makeup. So it's kind of fun. I want to just try to make sure though that they're prepared for what the real world is, because, broadcasting is just such a tough industry. And the more prepared you can be coming out of college, the better chances that you have of really succeeding in this career. And, only the strong survive in broadcasting. I'm sure all of you guys can attest to that.
Yes.
Or seen that firsthand.
Yes, absolutely.
So, yeah, it's fun, but I try to do everything I can just to make sure they're ready for making that jump into the real world, because it's such a huge jump. I mean, going from doing whatever in college, like we had a college newscast, but we would do one story a week. And now it's like, oh, can you do multiple hits on this story in the next 2 hours? It's like, oh, okay. It's like deadlines come. It just, the real world is just a whole different beast. So it's a lot of fun. It was awesome to get to talk to some students down in the Southwest suburbs, but just hopefully trying to get them ready for the next step, because, it's a big jump and this industry can be tough.
And thank you
Christine,
for doing that,
did you have
Kyle.
a question for Kylen?
Do I have a question?
Yeah, or a comment?
Do I have a question or a comment? I don't know. I went to Queen of Peace High School, so I kind of laughed when I heard you say, "Oh, we say that we're from Chicago, but nobody else like I grew up in Riverside, Illinois, by Brookfield Zoo." So when I say, "Oh yeah, Riverside," and everyone's like, "What?" I'm like, "It's just Chicago. It's just a western suburb." So I kind of laughed when you said that.
Yeah, my career has taken me all over. Like at some point, and you get enough of people saying, "What? Where's Riverside?" Wait, it's like the last 8 years out of the state.
And I'm glad I'm not the only one that's moved around a lot too. I'm still in my first market area, second job. Technically, I've been lucky where I haven't had to move again. So I'm holding off for a little bit.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, good for you. But yeah, at some point you just say Chicago.
Yeah, exactly.
If you talk to Chicagoans, don't say Chicago, but to everyone else, it's like same difference.
Right, exactly. As long as you're in Cook County, like that's
yes.
You can say that from Chicago. That's always what I tell people. Like, look, as long as they're from Cook County, you can claim that you're from Chicago.
Yeah.
All right, Kylen, thank you so much for joining. This has been so much fun. We got to do this again. Where can people find you on social media?
Yeah, definitely. Thank you guys so much for having me. Y'all are awesome. Twitter at Kylen Mills. I feel like I try to make all my handles as easy as possible. Literally my first and last name. Same thing. I'm on Facebook, journalist Kylen Mills, Instagram at Kylen Mills as well. So Kylen. I know my name is a little bit tricky in the spelling, but if you get that, you'll find me on any social media platform, because I just keep it simple, straightforward. So yeah, look me up anywhere. It's been awesome talking to you guys. So thank you so much for having me on.
Thank you for coming on, Kylen. We're definitely glad to do this again real soon. So we had fun with you. I hope you had fun with us. Enjoy that game on Sunday. It's going to be ugly. It's going to be interesting, but it should be fun any way you look at it. Thanks again for joining us. You keep up the great work, young lady. We'll definitely have you back on again.
Hey, you guys, you stay safe, Kylen.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And go Bears.
Yes.
All right. First.
All right. All right, that was Kylen Mills. Again, you can go at Kylen Mills on the Twitter, and we've had a busy show. And Look, having a good friend joining us. Unfortunately, guys, we got some breaking news here. Adrian Wojnarowski is reporting that Patrick Williams is done for the year with that wrist injury. So I'm already
just saw that, and I'm like, seriously?
Wow.
I'm like, you got to be kidding me.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm hurt right now. I can't. I know. I can only imagine what our buddy Matt Peck is going through right now. I know somebody needs to do a well-being check on him, because I think this is not good. This is not good news for the Bulls. Yes, not good news for the Bulls. Ugh.
Yeah, just add insult to injury. What happened with the game last night? Now this is not good. But we'll see. Well, the players step up, and let's see if AK and Mark Eversley can do at the trade deadline.
Yeah, gonna have to do that. So let's talk really quick about that game last night between the Packers and the Cardinals. You don't think AJ Green is somehow like kicking himself? I'm sure he's having like that weird like flashbacks. Like Rasul Douglas, I mean, just a heads up play by him. Just he was just like right there. Oh, the ball's to me. Okay, I'll take it.
Where's the flag? Where's the flag? Here. Where is it?
What was Rodgers doing with his helmet? Was he doing Halloween a little bit early? What was going on?
I know that was weird. That was just weird. Yeah, that was just a weird
think it's
game.
Hilarious.
Well, and also too, the fact that he was able to win. Of course, they would win. He would be able to win without three of his top receivers, including Devontae Adams, due to COVID. I mean, their defense stepped up. I mean, if you're Arizona, you're probably kicking themselves because that should have been a touchdown, but
it's okay.
Yeah, right. But look, that's a big implication too especially for the playoffs, especially if they end up having the same record. Packers gonna have the tiebreaker, so
yeah.
Yeah,
And
especially now.
Aaron said too. Oh, I'm sorry, Sid.
No, go ahead, Christine. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I think Aaron had said to Kyler Murray, "Hey, I'll see you at the playoffs." So he already knows that this isn't the last time that they're going to see each other.
Yeah, just like last year, instead of 4 bye weeks, there are 2 bye weeks, 1 per conference. So that could determine the NFC Championship game or even a divisional playoff matchup. It could be in Lambeau, so it's still a long way to go. So so that game last night could make it a mighty long way. Lakeena, let's go. No audible here, and let's go straight into our picks for Week 8 in the National Football League. Hopefully, the games will be a little bit better than they were last week. What were our results from last week? I know yours surely did well.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, you did pretty. Well, we actually all did pretty well. You had 9. You won 9 games. I won 9 games. You won 8. Christine, you're 2 games behind. You're 2 games behind. You and I are still tied, Sid. So but looking for some separation this week. You got the Ravens and the Raiders on bye. So adjust your fantasy leagues accordingly, folks. Going right to it, this first noon game, you got the Bengals and the 1-5 Jets. I'll start this one too, change it up a little bit. The Bengals should win this one. I don't think they're going to have this letdown from last week's game, hammering the Ravens. If they can do what they're supposed to, if they can, if Burrow can avoid the turnovers, the O-line keep them upright, the defense do what they're supposed to do, they should be able to win this game pretty handily.
No Zach Wilson, no defense. Cincinnati should keep their heads above water, and they should do what they're supposed to do. I know they're favored by 10.5, but I got Cincinnati for this one.
I got Cincinnati too, and I got to say, I'm impressed by their game that they had last week. I was like, is this really the score? Am I watching football or basketball? I'm very impressed with this team. They're definitely better than a lot of people think. And this one should be a no-brainer with the Jets, unfortunately. So yeah, Cincinnati.
All right, this one here should be a lot of fun. The AFC South. Our buddy Spiro Diaz from the show from CBS will be calling this game with AJ Feely. You got the Titans and the Colts. I know the Colts are 3-4, but they're coming off a big win against San Fran. The aforementioned San Francisco City. You start this one.
I know Indianapolis is favored by 2.5. I know the Titans, as I told you on this show last Friday, that they were going to beat the Chiefs, and that's exactly what they did. The Colts, I had them losing last week, so that was one of my couple losses that I had last week. But with that being said, I'm going to jump on that Colts bandwagon. It's going to be a close game. It's a division. They're both division rivals. Tennessee, they're going to come back down to earth a little bit. They're still a good team, but they need to come back down to reality. So I have the Colts in the field goal at home.
Yeah, I was gonna say this is a big division game, and Derrick Henry could actually have one of the biggest games of the season so far, and Titans could end up with this win, but I don't know. You know me and the Colts, I just don't trust them. Like it's so hard for me to say that the Colts could win this one, and I know that this is going to be a tough game too. I don't know. I think I'm gonna kick myself in the teeth for this. I'm gonna say Tennessee for this, just because I don't trust the Colts.
Oh,
I just don't. Even though they're at home, I just can't do it.
Oh gosh, I've been back and forth with this one. I should pick the Colts, but they're at home. But the Titans have Derrick Henry, so even though the run defense is actually pretty good, but I'm going to pick the Titans. I might regret it later. So, but who knows? The Rams and the Texans. Davis Mills will be starting the game despite Tyrod Taylor being back at practice. It'll probably be a couple weeks before he comes back. Christine, you start this one.
Short and sweet, it's the Rams. They're having a really good season this year, and you can really tell that having Stafford on as the leader for them, he has the right tools in his toolbox. I think I've mentioned that before, and everything's aligning for him right now and the rest of the Rams. So, yeah, it's got to be Los Angeles.
Not the Packers. The Rams are the best team in the NFC next to the Buccaneers. The Rams got their scare last week, as I suggested on Friday, even though I picked the Rams to win that one. Houston, they got a bunch of problems.
Yeah.
The Rams should dominate this one like they did against the Giants on the road a couple of weeks ago. So I'm going with Los Angeles.
I think if you ask Matthew Stafford, I think he feels like he left a lot on the table against his former team, the Lions. There was a lot of emotions there, so I think he's going to take it out on the Texans. There's just too much stuff going on. And trades, galore. So if the Rams don't blow them out, shame on them. I'll just say there's one here in the AFC North. You got the Steelers fresh off a bye, and the 4-3 Browns. Sid, you start this one.
The question is, will Baker Mayfield play? Me personally, I don't think he should. Case Keenum did a nice job last Thursday against the Broncos. Whoever can run the ball for Cleveland, there'll be a great game plan. Pittsburgh on the other side. Ben Roethlisberger, as we said before, he's getting old. He's old in the too many shots to the body makes you look like the way he looks right now. I think it's going to be a close one. I know the Browns are favored by 3.5, but I'm going with Cleveland. It should be no excuse why they don't win this one.
Yeah, it's really hard to say, Sid. And Pittsburgh, they've had their struggles too a lot this season. Like you said, Big Ben's getting old. They've had injuries too. And without Baker, trust me, I'm feeling it, especially in my fantasy league. I am feeling it for sure because he was my backup to Wilson, and that just all blew up in my face. So, and this is a home game for the Browns. And we saw what happened week 1 when the Browns played the Vikings, how electric that stadium is. And basically it threw off the Vikings by a landslide for sure. So I'm going to go with Cleveland.
I feel like I should step out here, but I'm not that crazy. I'm picking the Browns. I mean, I think look, Case Keenum is actually a pretty formidable veteran. So look, he knows the system, and I'm not too worried about that. The Steelers defense is pretty questionable, so he should be able to get through that no problem. It'll be close, but I think the Browns win this one. Eagles and Lions. You know what? I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna go for it. I'm picking the Lions. They're their first game of the season. Hurts. There's a lot of people there saying that maybe Hurts, should not be, be the starter. The people, they're Gardner Minshew chance. Joe Flacco won't be ready by then. So if people want Flacco to play for the Eagles today, that's not happening. So, but look, Dan Campbell's going to throw all types of, tools in the tool belt. So I think the Lions somehow pull this one out and they get their first win of the season.
As usual, Lakeena steals one of my surprise picks. So I'm jumping on that bandwagon. I'm going with Detroit.
Is everyone jumping on this bandwagon? Come on, guys.
Yeah.
We all know how bad Detroit is. And, they're still trying to figure themselves out as a team. It will be a close game. Detroit has the home field advantage. I can't do it. I'm stepping out of the box for this one and saying the Eagles. I can't pick Detroit.
But Detroit gave the Rams all they could handle last week. It wasn't like they made it interesting at the end. They hung with them from start to finish.
Come on.
Should I just do it and join you guys and just say Detroit?
Do it.
Come on.
The one time I'm picking Detroit, and if I'm wrong, and if they win, I will eat my words next week.
Okay.
All right, we got
That's
to
fair.
see.
All right, fair enough. All right, fair. All right, fair
If
enough.
they lose, I'll say I was right, and I'll say, eat my words, Sid. Just eat it.
Okay.
All right, that's fair. Fair enough. A good one here in the NFC South. You got the Panthers, kind of like in a free fall, going against the Falcons. I think the Falcons, I think they're kind of like starting to kind of find their niche a little bit. So this will be a close one, but I'm picking the Falcons. I trust Matt Ryan than I do Sam Darnold at this point.
Yeah, you stole my words. Matt Ryan, despite that turnover that almost cost them the game last week at Miami, I still trust the Falcons, so I'm going with Atlanta. Man, the Panthers on a 4-game losing streak. Sam Darnold, like you said, going back to his old self. Until I see consistency from them, I don't trust Carolina. I'm going with Atlanta.
Yeah, it's a tough one. Falcons have won 2 straight. Panthers have lost 4 straight. The Panthers are really struggling offensively. Come on, Matt Ryan, get something right. So let's go Falcons.
All right, a good one here in the AFC East. Dolphins and the Bills coming off fresh from a bye. The Bills are. So the Bills are not going to be in a very good mood after losing that one against the Titans. I think Josh Allen has his best game of the season. There's a lot of, turmoil going on with the Dolphins. So plus all that equals a Bills blowout. So I'm picking the Bills.
Short and sweet, the Bills. That's it.
Yeah, remember that?
You can't do it. And it's hopeless.
Remember that game last year in Buffalo, guys, with no fans, and Miami had a playoff berth on the line? They got their heads blown off. I expect to see that again. So I'm going with Buffalo, this time with fans.
Right, exactly. I'm sure. Yeah, it's going to be, that place is going to be rocking for sure. Christine, you start this one. Patriots and Chargers versus the 3 o'clock games.
This is going to be another good one too. I've been very impressed with how Mac Jones has been handling everything, coming off, a rookie season. He is in his rookie season, dealing with Coach Belichick and his antics, and just having a pretty good team surrounding him too. And now Mac Jones is my quarterback for fantasy this week. So, but I don't know. It's tough. I like to think of it this way. You have a rookie quarterback going up against someone that's been in the league for a year now. That's how I'm kind of looking at it. Both are still relatively new in the league, but I think I'm going to have to go with the Chargers. It's a home game for them, so let's see what they can do.
Yeah, we'll see how many quote-unquote New England fans will be at SoFi Stadium because Tom Brady's no longer there.
It's warmer than what
right.
with right now.
Right.
Right.
Justin Herbert, 3 touchdown passes. Book it. I got the Chargers by 10 points.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the Chargers are coming off a bye, and I know some people want to pick the upset with the Patriots, but the defense, I think the Chargers defense are more trustworthy than the Patriots defense, and so I kind of feel like Herbert's got a lot to prove still, so it's gonna be close, but I think the Chargers pull away late. So, but it should be a fun one. All right, got the 1-5 Jags against the 2-5 Seahawks. Sit, you start this one.
Can we call this a tie?
Yeah,
especially
Especially
after we saw what happened with the Saints and Seahawks last Monday night. Good grief! I want to go with the Jaguars, even though they had 10 days off and they won their last game. Urban Meyer keeps his job for now. Seattle, they had the home field advantage. I know they're favored by 3.5. It's a toss-up. I know I'm going to regret this in the morning, but I'm going with Seattle.
Same with me. I gotta go with Seattle too. I agree. I mean, this could potentially be a good game for Trevor Lawrence, potentially just because you don't have Russell Wilson and you don't have enough support on the Seattle side at the moment due to injuries. But, theoretically, it should be Seattle. So Seattle for the win.
It has to have Virginio Smith at some point, right? It has to. Yeah. He has to break through. He has to have a breaker game.
Right.
I know. Look, I know the Jags, have had 10 days off, but yeah, I know there's still guys that still have not trust Urban Meyer, so I'll pick the Seahawks. I might hate myself and kick myself later, but I'm picking Seattle. I don't I don't know why. Washington and Denver. Christine, you start this one.
Home field advantage, Denver. Mic drop. Done. That's it. That's how I'm leaving it.
I love it.
I would stay away from this game too if you're thinking about betting, because it can go either way, in all honesty.
I'm with you on that one. That's why I'm going with Denver. But if you, like you say, if you want to put some money on the game, don't touch this one. Leave it alone.
Don't touch it. Yeah.
Steer clear of this one. If you're all your bettors out there, Denver. I think Bridgewater's back, so Denver. All right. Yeah. Should be a really good one here in the NFC South. This is gonna be the Fox game of the week. Yeah, Joe Davis,
America's game of the week.
Yes, Joe Davis pitching in for Joe Buck, who's gonna be busy doing the World Series. He's gonna be with Aikman and Aaron Andrews and Tom Rinaldi. You got the Bucks and the Saints. This should be a really fun one. I know the Saints wants payback for what happened in the divisional round last season, but I think the Bucks. I think they're kind of like. I know Brown's still out with that ankle injury. I know Gronk's probably going to be out too. Markin will not be able to play this game, so you got to go through all types of COVID protocols. It's going to be very close, like it usually is between these two. But I'm picking the Bucks. I don't know why, but I might hate myself later. But I'm picking the Bucks.
Oh, I know why you're picking the Bucks, because you saw how Tom Brady destroyed the Bears last Sunday.
That might have been part of it. Who knows? That might be part of it.
That's just another conversation for later. But yeah, I'm going to go with Tampa Bay for this one.
I'm going to surprise you guys. I'm going with the Saints.
I knew you would go against us for this one.
It would be surprised. It wouldn't surprise me if they pull it out. Right. They've got the guys to. Especially if we get good Jameis, I think that could probably happen.
Exactly, yeah.
Two teams fresh off a bye in the Sunday nighter. You got the Cowboys and the Vikings. Dak Prescott's got that calf injury, so he's been limited in practice. You know what? Should I do it? Should I? You know what? I'll do it. I'll pick the Vikings. I'll pick the upset. I think their defense is starting to kind of get it together a little bit. I think if Kirk Cousins doesn't throw any weird interceptions and give the ball to Dalvin Cook, he should be 100% now. Justin Jefferson, I really like his game. I think the Vikings pull off the upset. I'm still not sold on Dallas. I might hate myself for that, but I'm not sold on Dallas yet. Yeah, I know. I have to do.
This is going to be an exciting game. It's Halloween, number one.
Mm-hmm.
So that's already going to be a lot of hype as it is. And it's against two competitive teams. Dak, we'll see how mobile he is. Maybe he won't even play. We don't really know what is happening yet. So, this is tough because the Vikings have gotten better this year as the season has progressed, like slowly but surely. But I think Dallas just has that stronger momentum right now. So just like you, I'm going to bite my tongue for this, but I'm going to go with Dallas.
The Vikings are favored by 3 points. So I guess Vegas knows something. If Dak Prescott plays, he won't be at 100%, even though he had the bye week. But fantasy football players all around for me in this game for both teams. I got Dalvin Cook and Justin Jefferson doing the giddy dance on the Vikings. And, of course, I got both starting wide receivers for Dallas on my team. So I need somebody to score some points for me and score them in a hurry. But with that being said, I think it's going to be a close one. Dallas should come out there with the victory. Ezekiel Elliott, you had a bounce back year. We need to see that again from you on Sunday. Yeah. Totally powered, same thing. Let's go. I'm going with Dallas.
All right. Look, I'll be on my own here. That's all right. I'll be on my own island. That's fine. Monday nighter here, you got the Giants and the Chiefs. If the Chiefs don't win this game, shame on them. I mean, look, the Giants, they played better, last week against the Panthers, but the Panthers have got all types of injuries and such. So if the Chiefs don't pull this out, I don't know what else. I don't know what to tell Chiefs fans. I'm sorry. I don't know what's wrong with y'all.
Yeah, exactly. I think I said this back in week 2. Once Kansas City lost after their second game after losing, I just said this doesn't seem good. And you two could probably back me up when I said that. Like this doesn't seem good. And just as the season has gone on, we're in week 8 now. It's more apparent to me and probably to the rest of the Chiefs fans that this is not the same team. This is not the same team anymore. The offense is different. Mahomes has literally no support with his O-line. The defense isn't doing so great either. So again, they should win this, but if they don't, someone in the front office needs to reevaluate what's going on here.
Kansas City is favored by 9.5. The Giants, I think they'll show up for a little bit, but it should be the Chiefs for this one. I think the most interesting thing about this game is I'm watching the Manning broadcast for this one. Eli Manning, I think this will be the first time publicly he'll broadcast against his former team, talking about his former team.
Yeah,
that's going to be a whole lot of fun.
That's worth the price of admission right there. Yeah. Last but not least, and I guess because we have to, the 49ers and the Bears. Sid, you start this one.
Yeah, that's going to be scary in itself.
My head hurts. My head's already hurting. I can't.
Yeah, you go first with this one. I want to hear your thoughts.
Who, me? Oh, Jesus. Look, they're going to be wearing the orange uniforms, the Bears are. I just heard that somewhere. They don't play very well when they wear those orange uniforms. So, like I said, like I was telling our buddy Kylen earlier, this could be one of those 6-3, 9-6 type of deals. So, and that could very well end up happening. But, Mac is out. I know 49ers have their own injuries. I just can't in good conscience pick the Bears. I'm sorry. I'm picking San Fran. Would it surprise me the Bears if Justin Fields has best game of the season and they win it that way? Sure, but I just don't see it. So I'm picking the 49ers in the 10-7, 9-6, 6-3, Giants being the Cubs, whatever.
Giants being the Cubs? What are you saying?
Never mind. Baseball scores.
Oh
Christine.
My goodness. That's go, Sid. Yeah.
Okay. As far as we know, the weather will not be a factor. It will be sunny and 50+ degrees. So we can X out the weather factor. As I said in a previous segment, this game will it be fun? This game end in a tie.
You almost wish it would. You almost wish it would.
But just because Robert Quinn is back and Damian Williams should be back, I'm going with the Bears by a field goal.
I saw something interesting that I'm trying to pull up here on Facebook this morning, actually. And it said there was a report going around that Fields and Robinson could potentially be doing individual Zoom meetings, going over the tape themselves, and then creating their own plays out of it and going against completely whatever is going to be said in Fields' ears. I'm not sure if I like the sound of that.
But it'll be great because Matt Nagy, as of right now, he's in COVID protocol. He might not be available on the sideline on Sunday, so they could work.
It could work.
It could.
It could work, but I don't know how I feel about players going against what their coaches are telling them. You know what I mean? It just seems like there's some sort of an internal struggle there. And another thing that I noticed during that Tampa game, besides, us getting completely blown out of the water. I don't know if you noticed this. Sometimes when Fields would go back to pass in the pocket, he does this spin move.
Yeah.
And what happens to that spin move, he has his one body facing towards another side of the field, but his back is completely turned towards the opposite side of the field. And, it's just something where you're not going to see who's coming at you if you don't have your body completely squared up, which is why when we saw those massive hits from the Bucs defense, those big blows that could have easily injured Fields, it's because he doesn't have his body faced towards the field enough. And I know that's his signature move, the spin and stuff like that. But at one point, he has to realize this isn't Ohio State football. This isn't college football. This is the NFL. The game is faster. It's different than what it's been before. And if you don't have eyes on the entire field, you could be missing a receiver that's way down there and could be wide open, if that makes sense.
Right.
So I think Fields needs to allow himself to see the field more. And I hope I'm making sense when I'm saying this, because that was probably my biggest pet peeve, was like, gosh, he could be injured if he wasn't facing the field the right way. But back to my pick, it's going to be the 49ers, just because I can't deal with the Bears right now. There's so many unknowns. You have a lot of players that are injured. You have a lot of players that are still in COVID protocol. And even with those 2 players coming back from that, I don't think it's going to make a difference unless there's a massive change or a light bulb that goes off in Fields' head. I don't see them winning, unfortunately. Maybe it will be a close game, but I don't see this one. I think it's another L.
And our buddy on Mondo Laura Jr. says Nagy has definitely lost the team. So we'll see what happens on Sunday, whether Nagy is on the field or not due to COVID protocol. So those are our Week 8 NFL picks. Check back in with us next week to see how we did. You're listening to Second City Sports live and in living color. #Football Friday right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid, Lakeena, Christine with you. We want to short on time, guys. Let's go to the World Series. Game 3 is tonight from Atlanta at 7 o'clock on Fox. Game 4 is tomorrow at 7:09, and Game 5 will be Sunday following football at 7 o'clock on Fox. Christine, I'll start with you. Best of 7 series tied up at a game apiece. The Braves stormed out of the box, stealing Game 1. Houston responded in Game 2. What do you expect tonight from Atlanta?
Gosh, I hope the Braves win.
Me too.
Everyone else in the world is like, let's go Braves. And then you had the tiny little Houston people just like, okay, Astros, let's do this. So I think everyone is just hoping that the Braves pull out this one, especially, they have their home field tonight. Who knows? Maybe there could be some heckling from the crowd too. I wouldn't be surprised if the Braves fans get a little rowdy when it comes to the Astros taking the field.
Yeah, these next 3 games are probably going to be pivotal over whenever it goes back to Houston on Tuesday. It's going to be interesting to see, who will have that advantage. Luis Garcia and Ian Anderson will face each, going up to the bump on the mound in Game 3. So that should be a very interesting matchup, no doubt. And look, it's going to depend on who can jump on, who's batting can jump on the other pitchers early. To me, that's going to be the key. So I had Houston in 6, so I have to stick with it. So I think Houston will probably win 2 out of 3 and perhaps going back home to clinch it on Tuesday. That's just my opinion.
All right. Like I said, I still have Atlanta in 7, so I'm still on track. Christine, let's go to Bulls basketball. Of course, they lost their first game of the season last night as Lakeena sheds her tears, her Zoom tears.
It's okay.
But they lost their first game of the year to the New York Knicks last night at the UC by 3 points. But Joakim Noah was honored before the game. I don't know if you got a chance to catch it, but he was honored before the game. And he's going to work as a team ambassador. What are your thoughts about Joakim Noah?
What a great role model, a great athlete. And you know what? If the Bulls are going to lose to anybody this year, might as well have been to the Knicks, especially with everything surrounding that night and Derrick Rose being back at the UC, Tom Thibodeau being back in the UC. It was just a very nostalgic evening overall. So regardless if they won or lost, I think Joakim was just happy to be back where it all started for him, to feel that energy of the crowd again. So I think that's a great move by the Bulls organization to have him as an ambassador, because he still is a role model for a lot of young players. So it's awesome to see him in this leadership position.
That's to bring it down for a second. What do you think about this Blackhawk situation? We talked about it earlier in the show. I know you have your thoughts on it. Tell us.
It's a shame. It's honestly a shame. And everyone has been praising Kyle Beach for really standing up and for saying something. And it's so tough being in the position that we're all in. Whatever we say is going to impact what other people say. So no matter what our thoughts are, the fact of the reality is the Blackhawk organization should not have covered this up, regardless of if you're in the championship run or not. I get it. The NHL has been known for burying stuff like this. They have been known for just keeping issues like this so hushed and underneath. And it's just a shame. And I was saying this to my radio partner and my parents. I feel bad for the young players that are playing for the Hawks right now. And these are the 20-year-olds that are playing right now, because this is the start of their NHL career. And now to have fans, not really being there, it makes them feel bad. But I totally get where the fans are coming from too when this all came out. I feel for the players that had nothing to do with this situation, and they're getting the brunt of this all. And it's just a tough situation. And with Taze and Kane coming out with saying a statement too, Taze's statement is a little. You know what I mean? It's a little teeter-totter and back and forth between, oh, it's terrible what happened, but hey, Stan Bowman is a great guy. It's like you're trying to stay neutral in a situation where you really can't stay neutral in. And it's so sad for the city. It's so sad for this well-known organization. And it's tough. It's very, very tough. And my heart goes out to anyone that has dealt with sexual assault or sexual abuse, because it is real. It's real whether you're in sports or not. And it's very commendable, and it's honorable that Kyle Beach is standing up now after all this time. And he's really bringing this to light in the hockey industry. So yeah, that's what I have to say about it.
Yeah, Mardo Lara Jr. once again posting up a comment on our Facebook page at Sports Zone Chicago. He says, "You can't be proud to be a Blackhawks fan anymore. It's going to take a long time for Blackhawks to. It's going to stick with them forever, but to rebuild their image, it's going to take a while. Of course, when this team starts to win again, it's going to take some of the pressure off, but it's going to be a long time. For other reasons, I wasn't going to go to a Blackhawks game this year." But it looks like I might not go there. Looks like my money will be going to the Bulls this year. But am I still a Blackhawks fan? Yes. Will I still be wearing my jerseys, Blackhawks jerseys, as of right now? No.
Yeah, I think a lot of people feel that way.
Right. Like I said, that's where I am right now. I'm still a fan, but right now I can't wear any paraphernalia. It's going to take some time.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just a sad situation. Very, very sad right now.
Yeah, I don't know if you got a chance to read those reports, Christine, but I could barely get through half of it without having my stomach turned 1,000 times.
I listened to Kyle Beach's interview, and the way that he gets so emotional about it, and how raw. You don't see athletes rarely in that raw situation. You don't see them really being that vulnerable often. So that's why it's so brave of him to do that, and to now be an advocate for others and inspire them, hopefully, to come out and say something. So it's heartfelt, and it's bittersweet for him too, I'm sure.
All right, well, let's end on a happier note. What are you guys looking forward to this weekend in sports?
For me, the World Series. Let's see if Atlanta can make my prediction come true by winning in 7 games. If they can beat the Astros sooner, they'll be great too. But I'm really looking forward to college football tomorrow, Lakeena. Michigan and Michigan State at Big News Saturday at 11 o'clock Chicago time on Fox. Jim Harbaugh, this is going to be his biggest test so far this year. They had to go on the road at East Lansing to face Michigan State and Mel Tucker's squad. And, of course, all the NFL action on Sunday. Of course, I'm looking forward to Bulls basketball tomorrow night. They host the Utah Jazz at the UC. Tony Kukoc, now the new member of the Basketball Hall of Fame, he'll be honored before the game.
What about you, Christine?
Yeah, speaking of Utah Jazz, there is no jazz in Utah, number one.
That came from New Orleans, that's why.
Yeah, I'll say, that's why. That's where it came from, yeah. It just stuck with it.
It's hilarious to me. And I think I'm just looking forward to football and Halloween candy. That's how I'm going to spend my Halloween, just chilling out, watching football, and just enjoying what's left of this nice South Dakota weather for a little bit longer.
Well, the Chicago Bears will give you a trick. damn, and then you'll get your treat with candy.
Exactly.
There's your
True.
balance.
No, tease it a little bit with here's
Right.
a plan, and it's like, nope, you got tricked.
Sorry.
Damn.
Should be. I mean, look.
Favorite Halloween candy, Christine.
Oh boy, I was just asked this today. I like dark chocolate, so like the Hershey's dark chocolate and stuff
yummy.
like that. I'm a big dark chocolate girl.
Butterfinger and Kit Kat and Three Musketeers for me. Not in that order. Those are like my three.
Yeah.
I mean, he's some Three Musketeers that get off the air here, but outside of that, I know it's not considered Halloween candy, but my favorite candy, I had to cut back on this for a while, but Goobers. When I watch the movie, I love Goobers.
Oh, yeah.
Boy.
That's
Those are
Halloween candy.
Well, if it does, then it's back on the list. I like that.
I would consider it Halloween candy.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
Just
fine.
because Christine said so.
Yeah,
Halloween candy.
There you go. Bam! Yeah, right. They're addictive though.
Yeah.
Because
That's why I said I had to cut back, man. You know, too much of that sugar.
That could be a little bit. For me, of course, Michigan State. This will be the first time since 1964 that both these teams will be ranked in the top 10 facing each other. So should be a lot of fun. Weather could be an issue there. A lot of the NFL games, also to the rest of the college football slates, and some great soccer matchups too across the European league. So I'm going to be busy this weekend, and the Halloween stuff. Let's just get right to it and get right into the holidays because I'm not a big Halloween person. So I'm sorry.
Really?
No. I just feel like it's a kid's holiday. I think just like
my holiday that I can't stand is New Year's Eve. Shoot the messenger, but I just can't stand it for whatever reason.
I'm with you, Christine. I guess as I've gotten older, I'm all for having fun in a safe and positive light. But just like Halloween, we're going to see this weekend. Some of you are adults. I know Halloween's more of a kids' holiday than adults, but some of you adults just lose it a little bit too much.
Oh, yeah.
Like I'm all for everybody having fun, but some of y'all don't know how to act right.
No,
you don't know how to behave. You know how to act a fool, but you don't know how to behave.
Halloween candy, though, Sid. I already know. You just get a bag for yourself, and you're like, "Yep, this is my Halloween."
That's right. I tell people this all the time. I know we're running up against it, but I tell people all the time. I treat Halloween just like Valentine's Day. I don't give a damn about either of those holidays, but if someone offer me free candy, I'm taking it.
I'm taking
Mic drop.
Don't take it myself, Sid. Go dress up.
Oh gosh. And on that note, you can follow me at Keena McKee on the Twitter and at Keena McKee on the IG.
You can follow yours truly, Sydney Brown, on the Twitter and the IG at CK80. Once again, SCK80. That's SIDKIDA0. That's SIDKIDA0. Christine, where can people follow you on these social media streets?
Follow me right here. Oh, there it is. Right here on Twitter at CManika_KXRB.
Make sure you download that Sports Zone Chicago app. Make sure you follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Make sure you follow us at War on Anchor for the podcast version. We are available on all podcast platforms, including the iHeartRadio app. Type in those search entry boxes on these podcast platforms, WARR on Anchor. And you can follow War Media at WAR Media at Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. And thank you very much for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends. And a happy anniversary to Armando. He said he got married on Halloween. So, in costumes.
The cemetery. What?
Yeah. Wow, Armando, we're learning a lot about you, my friend, today. Wow. Happy anniversary to you and your lovely wife. And for Sid and Christine, I'm Lakeena. This has been Second City Sports. Happy Halloween, everybody. And stay safe and don't do anything stupid, folks, please. Wash your hands and stay warm. And stay warm out there, folks. Gonna get a little cooler here in these next few days. So make sure you guys bundle up. This is Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago, and we'll see you next week.
We'd like to thank Cheryl Raye Stout and Kylen Mills for both joining us today on the show.
And
Go
Christine
Bears.
as well.
Yes, and Christine, as usual. The Queen Christine.
Oh,
we shouldn't forget. we shouldn't forget. Until Monday, go Bulls, and I guess Bears. Woo! Holla!